What's up, guys? What is crack-a-lackin'? Welcome to Free Speech Friday. Gonna give it a second to make sure that we've got everything rolling and rocking. Everyone's got audio. Let me know in the chat that it's sounding good, that we're looking good. I've been away traveling, so I feel a little out of place. Had to set everything back up. But we have a crazy show tonight. It has been a very frantic day of putting together all sorts of different projects, all sorts of different ideas, and it literally is crystallizing right now. As the intro was wrapping up, I was literally putting research together and opening the last sources, and it just clicked into place. And we're gonna have a lot of fun tonight. It is a serious stream. This is actual evidence and sources and information based in reality, but it's also going to be a really fun stream that's going to be pretty tinfoily. And the title is not entirely clickbait. We didn't solve any cases, I don't think, but there's definitely some shit going on here. And we're going to do a bunch of context on the Rothschilds, which we'll get to in just a second. We're going to talk about this weird French company that has bought a hangar in Delaware that Candace Owens has been talking about. That was literally just coming together 10 seconds ago in the sidelines here. We're going to talk about Brigitte Macron, obviously. Very relevant. Rothschild connections. France. We're going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. France. We're going to talk about a bunch of the Epstein emails. And it all kind of ties together in a really fun place to start. So, crack a drink, get settled in. It'll probably be a relatively long stream tonight. If you're on YouTube, the super chats we will do all at the end. I'll read through them from highest to lowest as much as I can, like I normally do, and we'll give it maybe 30 minutes to an hour, and then I'll try to get to some of the smaller ones too at the end. If you're in the chat, you'll notice that the chat on screen is the Twitch chat. YouTube chat is too crazy. So if you want to be in the chat on screen, you can go hang out with the homies in the Twitch, where we'll be streaming all week long because we have a lot of stuff coming up this week that I'm so excited to share with you. I'm gonna show you a little bit of what we've been working on in the background here. That's been helping dig into the Epstein files, and I've been teasing it to some of the buddies, some of the homies in the information spaces. I've been teasing this project that we're working on to my buddies, and it's almost ready, and we'll use a little bit of it tonight. But before we get to the start of the Rothschild thread that will sort of take us into the whole night tonight, I want to start with just a little bit of a reminder of where Candace got us to this week, because I feel strongly like Candace completely changed the timeline of human history this week. I think that Candace's shows this week were some of the most impactful shows that have been on the internet in years. And I think that they have forever changed the course of the Charlie Kirk investigation, but thereby of American politics, of deep state politics, and of whatever the heck is going to happen in the next years. I think that a lot of you guys can probably see it as you're starting to put the pieces together, but the deeper into the story you are, the more inside sources you have, the more you realize that what she's putting out this week is not messing around. Candace has changed the game. And there's a couple of threads that she's pulling on that are extremely significant. And the connections that she's drawing are far deeper than might appear at first. Because this is not just about Charlie Kirk's assassination. And this is not just about the French government or the American government. This is not just about Jeffrey Epstein. This is about, we're starting to see the cracks in the ceiling that has contained the conversation up till now that has kept us all believing that we live in a world that is ruled by politicians that we elected, or at least some version of that. And we're starting to see through the veil to the criminal cabal that sort of operates above and behind the politicians, pulling on all of their strings with money, with donations, blackmail, threats, favors, you name it. So we're going to try to keep this thread in order. We're going to try to follow it relatively directly and not get too Charlie Day here. But we're going to have a lot of fun, and we'll see where this goes. But let's start tonight with a little reminder about this French company that Candace exposed this week via leaked sources that she then corroborated that other people have now been digging into. And I don't know if my timestamp is exact here, but I'm just going to play a little bit just to jog our memory.
TYS announced that it was taking over the shuttered Wilmington Airport hangar, and every Delaware outlet said the same thing. Satis will invest a little over $1 million, and get this. So you see that? We are pulling that up. We have confirmed that that is true.
So anytime that you see someone reporting on something in a video, it would be good for you to develop the habit of double checking it. And yes, I know, chat, I know that MTG just announced something really big. There is so much news tonight, we're not going to get distracted. There will be lots of shows this week. We'll be streaming on Twitch all week long. We're not going to get distracted. I know. So Candace talks about this French firm that buys out this airport hangar in Delaware called Satis. And when you see something on the screen, you can Google that. You can look that up and find it. If you just take enough keywords in a row and you just type that title in, you'll find that article. And ironically, I think that I looked it up in a different tab initially. But it is right here. And you can read about it. You can learn more about it. You can see names and faces. You can learn a little more about what's going on with this company and what they're claiming they're going to do, and how much money is getting invested. But one article is never going to give you the whole picture. And if I'm being really honest with you, the whole 10-minute intro video that we play before the stream to kind of give people time to get in here, that is not intended to be our all-time forever video. It just, I don't have some gigantic team of people. This is like basically just me and two buddies putting this all together at this point. But ironically, it's all about how AI can augment your research. The volume is pretty low. Don't worry, I'm going to get shouty here before too long. And AI is going to augment our research a fair bit tonight, and we're going to check sources on it. And I'm going to show you how you can augment your sources or your research with AI and then augment it back into primary sources. And we're going to see just what you can do when you do such a thing and just how much you can dig up when you do these things. So in the background, I kind of knew how suspicious the Satis company is, but I hadn't yet put together the pieces on it. And so in the background during that intro, like literally minutes and seconds before we started the stream, I was running a search to try to get a whole bunch of information compiled about this company. And I didn't know what it would turn up at all. I just asked Claude to run a search and figure out what you can find. Okay. Look into it, look at the money, look at any officials in the company Satis, and just look for connections, look for suspicious stuff, and be a little bit speculative, but please cite your sources so that we can double check you, right? And this is just going to get us warmed up, and then we're about to follow a bunch of threads into a whole bunch of locations and places and tie a lot of things together here. And so I ran this search, not really expecting it to turn up anything, but you might as well try, right? Satis is a French industrial group founded in 1986, headquartered in Blagnac, according to company information. It's founded by Christopher Cater. He's led the company since 1999. And it finds French state investment and defense connections. Critical findings. Satis is heavily funded by French state-controlled investment vehicles with direct defense and intelligence mandates. Primary investors. BPI France, a major investor. What it is? France's state-owned public investment bank. And see, this right here is a link that we can open to, it'll open it down into that one because that was my last window that I was on. Let me click on this so that it'll open in this one. Bloop. That's just a Wikipedia link. Not great. We don't love it. Defense role. Manages Define Vest fully specifically for startups and SMEs, regarded as strategic for French Armed Forces equipment. Okay. But I'm noticing that these aren't actually links to sourcing on the fact that these people are investors. This is just telling me that it's got a bunch of investors that are heavily tied to French defense and intelligence stuff, but it's not actually linking me to a source to confirm that those are investors. It's just telling me that these are the investors it's telling me, and they are linked, and they're linked to intelligence and military and stuff like that in France. And that's suspicious if they are investors, right? BPI France issued a study stating France's defense industry needs a bunch of funding. Intelligence integration is a strategic part of French military and intelligence strategy. And that is normal for all major states these days. America does that. Israel definitely does that, where the defense industry, the intelligence industries invest in private companies and startups so that they can have cutouts that are not affiliated with the government or with the intelligence agencies that will do their bidding or kind of, create their networks, but in a covert way, so they don't link back to whatever dark programs or government activities they're a part of. But again, we don't yet see any sources about the fact that these people are investors. But there's a number of them, like Caisse de dépôt et consignation. CDC, much better. CDC. What it is, it's called the investment arm of the French state under parliamentary control since 1816. And then there's other French regional state investment entities, like all of these guys, that are invested too. The connection of French state investment vehicles and Satis suggests this isn't merely a commercial aircraft painting company. The funding pattern closely resembles that of companies considered strategic for French defense and intelligence sovereignty. This is the thing that was already implied in Candace's reporting that I already had enough context to suspect pretty heavily. And you probably did too, depending on your level of following of this story. It was extremely suspicious, just the way that this whole investment in this airport happened, or this hangar rather, in Delaware. And it was extremely suspicious, this flight that is landing there. Pardonnez-moi, right? And there's a lot more intel there, but honestly, we'll touch on this for a second. The Wilmington hangar, strategic location analysis. Dassault operated, so the company that owned that hangar before Satis, they operate Wilmington Airport from 2000 to 2022, maintaining a facility that painted and maintained Falcon business jets, including potential intelligence variants, and they employed 131 workers before abruptly closing and offshoring operations after contentious union negotiations. The airport's profile, it has unique characteristics. It has a presidential connection. It's the home base for Joe Biden. And remember, Satis inked this deal back during Biden's presidency, right near the end of his presidency, right? Used Air Force One arrivals 16 times in the first 7 months of his presidency. Military presence. Delaware Air National Guard maintains a base there. Corporate aviation hub. Despite struggling with commercial service, it maintains strong corporate jet operations. Corporations, the other arm of the deep state, military, intelligence, corporate. Historical. Originally established by the DuPont family in 1923, used as military airfield in World War II. So, a French state-backed company taking over a hangar previously used by another French defense contractor at the home airport of a sitting U.S. president at the time negotiations began in late 2023 raises questions about what the hell is going on here, right? Okay, so this little searchy search that we ran while we were getting the intro ready seems to be yielding results. But let's make sure that we actually are seeing evidence of the investments, not just that AI is telling us that they're invested and giving us spookies, right? So I also was having it dig into Rothschild connections just because they're going to come up later in the show, just for the fun of it, just to make sure that the French arm of the Rothschild family isn't one of these investors. It didn't turn up any, we could dig further, but for now we're good. Suspicious elements and patterns. Okay, now we're talking about some financial history of Satis, and we're going to get back to PitchBook in a second. They were acquired in 2023, and PitchBook, which is, if you're not familiar with PitchBook is like the ultra wealthy portal to see who's buying who's running who. You pay a shitload of money to get access to it. It's like $25,000 a year or something like that. I don't know what it is exactly. And it'll tell you like who all the directors of private companies are, who's buying them, who's selling them, who's investing in them. It's very useful information. I do not have access to it. But PitchBook shows that Satis was acquired December 1st, 2023, but the acquiring entity is not disclosed in public sources. It's kind of interesting. State investment concentration. The clustering of French state investment vehicles in a commercial aircraft painting company is unusual. Unless you think about what you might be able to do with a bunch of hangars that are painting aircrafts, if you know what I mean, right? And a whole bunch of other things that we've kind of already talked about, like the timing, like the location, right? Like the strategic client base. So, AI is usually pretty wordy. The French state approach to dual use, as in, it's a private corporation, but they're funded by us and all of our buddies. And, sometimes maybe they do stuff for us too on the side, quietly and under cover of their hangars. But we've got to make sure that that we're getting sources on the fact that these people are invested. And so I asked it. I said, hey, let's make sure that you give me a source for the investments themselves. And it gave me a PitchBook source, another PitchBook source, Crunchbase insight sources. It's a little hard to decipher these things because if you don't pay for them, you don't get all of the info that you need. But when you look into this, you can start to see the kinds of things that it is talking about. You can see the buyouts. You can see the investments. Not as many because the AI can kind of access a little more than I can from in front of the paywall. But that's what we like to see, is that it is sourcing this information from PitchBook, Crunchbase, Goodwin Law announcement, 2021 reorganization announcement mentions, underwritten by Capital Investment, Satis Industries, owned by Christophe Cater, and a pool of regional and national investors from Crédit Agricole, led by Crédit Agricole Regions Investment, etc. So, and I was like, yeah, dang straight, you should have cited that at the beginning. It knows better. So, that's interesting. That's very interesting. And this is the Crunchbase sourcing. I don't know what that is. So, this French aircraft painting company has me thinking. It has me asking questions. It has me thinking that Candace is way over the target. And as her reporting has progressed this week, if you've been watching, you've been seeing her dive deeper and deeper and confirm her sources very, very thoroughly. And behind the scenes, I do not doubt her reporting that people are freaking out. But that is just the little teasing intro, and it's going to kind of loop back around at the end after we follow our main thread of investigation for tonight. Now, let's start at the beginning and work our way forwards. And the funniest part is that we're going to start with this troll on X. And it's kind of crazy how much this one little trolly comment has tied together this week into all of these investigations. And at what at first seemed just like a snarky little back and forth on X has become so funny and so relevant. And I just want to share it with you so that you can watch it come to fruition throughout this investigation, sort of ironically and sort of like it's a coincidence. So I had shouted out this great reporting by Ryan Grimm and Dropsite News about Jeffrey Epstein pursuing the Swiss Rothschild Bank to finance Israeli cyber weapons empire, because they've been doing amazing reporting on the Jeffrey Epstein file leaks, on Jeffrey Epstein in general, on his connections to Israel and all the military and intelligence work that he was doing with Ehud Barak. I've been following the reporting very closely because it's excellent. So I just shouted it out, sharing good sources with the world. And Wake Broad just got real offended by the share here and said, hey, Ian, this drop site piece cites exactly one source for the Rothschild claim. Ehud Barak recalling a casual remark Epstein allegedly made to him. That's it. No documents, no banking records, no witnesses, just Epstein, a documented serial liar bragging to Barak. The actual House oversight documents show Epstein's Israeli contacts were overwhelmingly ex-Peace Now and left-leaning intelligence figures who were trying to use him for influence ops, not the other way around. But sure, after you spent weeks posting emails, let's ignore grand jury transcripts. Challenge accepted, Wake Broad. When I saw this comment come in, I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. I wanted to believe that maybe this is a legitimate person that's just not very informed. And trust me, this will go deep, and it is hilarious. I don't normally I get into Twitter beef on Twitter because it's funny, but I don't normally bring it back around because it's not normally this hilariously relevant. I say, have you actually personally read through the Ehud emails and this batch? Because I have personally read many communications between Epstein and the lady Rothschild, Ariane de Rothschild, as well as communications she is CC'd on and discussed in. The nature of how the files were released makes it impossible to link to them directly for sourcing because they're all individual files in individual folders inside of other folders, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them, like 26,000 or something like that. Just the images, not to mention the text files. The nature of how the files were, okay, based on the comments from you I've seen, because she's, been shilling a lot, you feel like you aren't very high information on the topic. For example, have you personally read One Nation Under Blackmail? The quintessential volume to get started on Epstein research, full of sources and evidence? Yet you seem to try to conform it to your narrative, despite being low information. I don't mean to sound hostile. You seem like a genuine person, but I wonder how studied you are on the topic based on what I remember seeing from you. I say that here because the Rothschild connection to Epstein and Ehud's operation is very clear when you actually study these two email dumps. You seem like a genuine person. Oh, how wrong I was. You make it too easy, Ian. You claim you've personally read many communications between Epstein and the lady Rothschild, plus emails she CC'd on, all supposedly in the Ehud leaks and this batch. Laughing my face off. Those emails don't exist in any public capacity. Not in Jeffrey versus Maxwell, not in the 2015 address book, not in the 2019 to 2024 unseals, not in Barak's hacked inbox, nowhere. So, where are they? Unlike you, I've read every page that's actually been released multiple times. And there isn't a single Epstein Rothschild email. Not one, zero, nada. So either you're sitting on the biggest scoop in modern history and you're keeping it secretal for some reason, or you're just making shit up. Post the emails or kindly admit that you're full of shit. And when I tell you that when I saw this come in, it was like God coming down from the heavens with a golden platter full of my favorite food. Oh my God, it was a gift. I immediately got up off the couch and just, it took me 3 minutes, and I went and sourced her a few emails, and this later spiraled into what you're about to see. And then it connected back to all this other pieces of our stories. Because once you know a little, things just start to connect. Okay, this is where I replied to her. For your viewing pleasure, here are 3 email threads to or from her, and I just sourced them directly. To Ariane de Rothschild. Dear Ariane, I'll be very glad and honored to meet this Wednesday morning, etc., etc., etc. This one is Ehud Barak and Jeffrey Epstein discussing an email from her, forwarded from Ariane de Rothschild. Hi, Jeff. Would you mind asking Ehud whether or not he is advising the Herzliya conference, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Okay. We're not going to get into all of them right now because we'll get into them later. There's 3 of them there. Just quickly sourced. Literally took me like a minute and 30 seconds. And then I sourced her 4 emails where Ehud and Epstein are discussing her. We should try and reconnect to Rothschild. And we're going to come back to these because we'll get context. We'll get a timeline. It will all link together. Ironically, from the very reporting that she's claiming there's no evidence for. So this is Ehud Barak. Neely is his wife. Rothschild, evening of the 30th confirmed, referring to Ariane Rothschild. We should have dinner with Rothschild, maybe. Sarkozy, who was the president of France at the time. I'll be there the 30th, right? So there's 4 different emails where they're mentioning the Rothschild gal. And it literally took me 3 minutes because I've been working on a whole system by which we can use AI to analyze all of these files at once, and we can quickly search through them and access them and dig into them without having to open literally thousands and thousands and thousands of individual files, as she claims she's done multiple times. Because the other piece and the other reason why I'm sharing this Twitter drama is because it's important to get educated about Israeli propaganda and how fucking confident these people are that they can just lie to you to your face and we will all just be dumb and not realize it. Okay. This is the status quo for Israeli propaganda. So I show her, I drop her those 2 sources and I say, tell me again about how you read every single one multiple times. You do realize that you just claimed that you went through thousands of files and opened many thousands of individual images and read each one multiple times. So like, how much time do you have, girl? And I will ask you again, this time more bluntly, are you spinning a narrative or are you just retarded? These took me all of 3 minutes to dig up. And she responds, there is not a single email from Jeffrey Epstein to her and vice versa, in all caps. You proved my point. You have nothing. Literally responding to 7 emails of exactly what we're talking about. Then she moves the goalposts about how these aren't suspicious, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It would be nice to say it's because she's stupid. I don't think that's actually why. We don't need to go any further. There's so much more fun to get into reading her replies and her just like, what is even going on? But you get the picture, right? So Homegirl sort of inspired a whole thing over here in our Obsidian Vault. And we're now going to take a break from the Epstein emails and we're going to come back to them at the end of a quick primer on the Rothschilds. Yeah, bots can't read pictures. That's a funny comment. So, I wanted to do a quick primer. Oh, I got a moth. Little moth was trying to get into my drink. Go be free. I want to do a primer on the Rothschilds, partially to clarify like all the conspiracy theories. It's a very controlled information space. They have millions of dollars of propaganda going into sterilizing their reputation over the years, right? So did Jeffrey Epstein. And imagine how much richer they are than Jeffrey Epstein. But also because it's just fun. And it's good to remind ourselves that these people are very much still real. It's not some ancient conspiracy theory. But let's start with the ancient part, okay? Let's start with the Rothschild dynasties from the original founder, okay? This is one of my oldest and most favorite Obsidian files that I've been saving for once we kind of broke the seal on this conversation a little bit because it's pretty gross to talk about. Mayer Amschel Rothschild, born in 1744, was the founding member of the Rothschild dynasty. Rothschild meaning red shield. It has to do with the original, the sign for their business originally, all the way back in Germany, which was not actually Germany at the time. Generation 0, okay? He had all these kids, and he sent them out to all these different nations around Europe to found their own banks. He had the first bank and he sent out all of his kids, his sons, to all these other nations to found banks in all these other nations. And they became the first like big international banking family. And that was their advantage through their rise that allowed them to gain so much power. And we'll come back to that. But I just wanted to show you how they consolidated their wealth and power in the early years. This is a picture of Janus, which is loosely related or affiliated with incest. Okay? With cousin marriages, maybe even brother and sister marriages. Although in this case, we're talking about mostly cousin marriages and like uncle to nephew and niece marriages. Aunt to like, mostly it's uncle to like niece marriages, to be perfectly honest. So just for symbology's sake, I put a little Janus in everywhere where there's a cousin marriage or a uncle to niece marriage, okay? And I just want to show you how many uncle to niece and cousin marriages were there. So there's one. So there's a Janice. There's a Janice. There's a Janice. There's an incest. 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 There's two more incests. There's another incest. There's one. There's one. These are only the first two generations of the family. Okay, mind you. Some of these are within the same bracket of the family, so they're like close in age. Some of them are to the younger bracket. They're not that close in age. You go down to the next one, and there's certain families like this one, the French branch. They didn't do any of that. Or maybe I didn't mark it because a lot of these are girls. Maybe they'll show up in different places the way that I did it. So yeah, there's one more here, and there's one more here. There's one more there, and there's one more there. And then by the early 1900s, by generation 4, they were kind of like, okay, this isn't so popular anymore, and we're all kind of getting retarded. Maybe we shouldn't keep marrying each other, and they branched out a little bit. But in the early days, this was like how the Rothschild dynasty did their thing. You just married your brother's daughter and then had kids with her. So just so you know. But it is pretty interesting to follow this, and it teaches you that when you follow the dynasties, and by the way, this is all sourced directly from the Rothschilds' own website. Okay, these little squares, these are screenshots from the Rothschilds family's official website. All right, and they tell you the name of the person and who they married, and it's right there. They don't tell you about the incest part, but like if you just go look for the name in the other lineage from the other country, you're like, oh, that's why they have the same name. That's weird. Interesting. And you start to notice things. But the dynasty was originally split out into 5 branches. The Austrian Empire, which at the time was quite powerful. Okay, I'm already over at the end. The British branch, in London, Nathan Mayer, he founded one of the most successful branches. The Italian branch, which ceased to exist later on in their history, they were in Naples. The French branch, which is very relevant today, they're the ones we're going to be talking about today. And they were, founded on the niece marriaging. So James Mayer married Betty Vaughan, his niece. He was born in 1792. She was born in 1805. So, it's only, a 13-year difference, give or take? I mean, it's not even as bad as the current president of France. Right? No big deal. And then, okay, so that is the final branch over here is the French branch. So we have the French, the Italian, the British, the Bavarian, and the OG German in Frankfurt. But the Italian lineage ends, and I don't exactly know why, but I know that he had a whole bunch of daughters and no sons at a certain point. And they got married off. There was this whole World War II thing going on. So, although their lineage kind of petered out before World War II, I guess it was World War I era. And then the Austrian branch, the Austro-Hungarian branch, so to speak, they petered out a little slower, mid-1900s. And we were left with largely just the British and the French branch. So let's talk about the Rothschilds, their dynasty, their conspiracy theories. Just briefly remind ourselves about these boys and girls. We're not going to belabor the point. We're not going to get too deep into it. But I chose a variety of sources, many of them from pro-Rothschild sources, and I tried to err on the side of not conspiratorial because you don't have to go with the full-on conspiracy theories to realize what's going on here, okay? The Rothschild family is currently worth Lord knows how much. Everyone has a different number. You really can't figure it out. People will go from like 100 trillion down to 15 trillion down to just like, they're really only worth $1 billion each at the most. And like, they don't even hang out anymore. Like, they're really not even powerful at all anymore. So, they own some companies. And And currently, when you trace the current business empire, it's kind of three main branches. It's the French branch, which we're going to be talking about a lot today. It's the London branch, which is extremely powerful still to this day. Their patriarch Jacob just died, a few years ago here. And they have a branch in Switzerland, in Geneva, which is extremely important for their banking operations. Ariane de Rothschild, who will feature prominently in this investigation, is a member of the Geneva, Switzerland branch. And she married into that branch by marrying Benjamin de Rothschild, who died at a relatively early age due to a heart attack, right here, which I bet had nothing to do with his heroin abuse problems for many years. Ariane de Rothschild is apparently not Jewish and did not convert to Judaism, though, you vile anti-Semites, you. She's just this gal, okay? And she's good buddies with Jeffrey Epstein, although Dumb Broad over on Twitter is certain that that's not true. So we'll come back to that, in a little bit. But I just wanted to put a face to the name, and we'll come back to it. And, you can look at their actual own, filings where they talk about how many hundreds of billions they manage, how much income they make, all this stuff. I'm not super concerned with the exact numbers of how much is what, because I don't really trust it anyways, because I've seen enough reporting on their sort of dark money flows, their money laundering, their involvement in intelligence operations, their involvement in the founding of the state of Israel, which we will briefly touch on here, that I think you're silly if you think that we know where all of their money is. But I'm not trying to say that they literally rule the world. I'm just saying they're powerful and they're still very much, involved. I don't know. We just zoomed way out. So if you want a map of the original empire, here you are. You have the original branch in Germany, London, France, Naples, Italy, and Vienna, Austria. And now we're down to mostly London, France, and Switzerland. The Napoleonic Wars. There's this whole conspiracy theory that the Rothschilds funded both sides of the Napoleonic Wars and they bled both sides dry to take control over their currencies and all this. And then once they decided who they wanted to win, they pulled funding from Napoleon and made the British Empire win. And then they did this whole conspiracy with the British stock market to take over the currency markets with this really brilliant trade. They bought up all the bonds on the currency and whatever. And then they just controlled the whole world. It's okay, yeah, that's just an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, guys. But when you play it out, the basis of the conspiracy theory is that they were in England advising the British and funding the British war effort. And that is not disputed. That is very much, well established that the Rothschild family in England was funding the British side of the Napoleonic Wars. What is disputed, I'm up too high here. Yeah, down here. We're going to skip over. I've got a bunch of sourcing about all the different Rothschilds that had important positions in government. They were critical to the Suez Canal purchase, very important purchase for geopolitics. They've been up in French politics. They've been up in British politics. They've been French presidents in the past. They were very involved in the founding of Israel, in the first concept of Israel, in the Balfour Declaration itself. Walter Rothschild, second Baron of Rothschild, is the one that received the Balfour Declaration when it says, "Dear Lord Rothschild." This is the man to whom it refers, in case you weren't aware. Okay? But then all these conspiracy theories about dating back all the way to the Napoleonic Wars. And the conspiracy theory is based on the idea that they were funding the British and then they were secretly funding the French. And the way that they were secretly funding the French, it's just an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, because the French actually were surveilling the Rothschild that moved to France as a foreign guy. And he was doing foreign business deals and the French were surveilling him. They were very suspicious of him. And there's no evidence that they were openly financing the French military. And that's kind of true as far as I can tell. Certainly not an expert. But it's not contentious that the Rothschild that moved to France, he went there to buy a bunch of gold. And he was covertly buying gold and sending it back to the British Empire to finance the British war effort. But when you buy gold in France, you're giving France money and you're depleting them of their gold supply, right? right? And so eventually, let's not get into the details, but Napoleon loses, and there's this whole conspiracy theory about how the Rothschilds, they front ran the trade by making it look like the British had lost at the Battle of Waterloo. And so then the stock market all freaked out and they crashed, and then they bought up everything on the cheap. And then the real news got there and said, no, we won. And then everything skyrocketed, and suddenly they had control over the entire British banking system, the Bank of England. The not anti-Semitic version of that, allegedly, is no, they didn't like crash the markets or anything. They just bought it up really cheap during wartime deficits anyways, for cheap. And then they had faster couriers, really great business acumen, and so they knew the news ahead of everyone else, and then they made a killing on that. Take whichever side of those stories you want. They took over a huge amount of the British banking system. And then it's not disputed that after the French economy collapsed after the Napoleonic Wars and what the banking sector was all disrupted, and they went from being foreign outsiders that were being suspicious, selling this gold, buying this gold up. And then very quickly, the French branch of the Rothschild Empire grew to great prominence and overtook the French bankers that had already been there that were largely, I believe, Protestant Christians. And then from there on, the French branch was extremely powerful in France. So you can take whatever flavor of those conspiracy theories you want. The Rothschilds were an absolute force from, the late 1800s into the 1900s. But obviously, they disappeared and they were never heard from again. Except for when you look into Jeffrey Epstein's emails and you find out that Lady Lynn Forrester de Rothschild is a very prominent figure in these dark circles, although we're not going to go into her as much tonight. And Ariane de Rothschild, by happenstance, both of these women married into the family and are now managing things. I don't know if there's a story there or not. But now let's talk about these emails. Let's get to the main event here, right? Enough of these anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Before we do this, I want to really briefly again just remind us of what's really important to know. It's really important that you remember throughout this whole process that there are no emails. They don't exist in any public capacity, okay? They're not in anywhere, nowhere, not at all. Not 1, 0, nada, okay? Keep that in mind. Zionists want you to know that. So let's just go through a spattering of the emails that you can find just in this one most recent document leak of Jeffrey Epstein's stuff from the House Oversight Committee. I've intentionally included the actual literal file name. If you download them yourself from the House Oversight Committee's website, you will get this exact file name, 026069.jpg. Okay. And I'm intentionally going to, skim these without a lot of context at first, because what I did is I have been scanning the email leaks. I've been putting together this whole document of a whole bunch of interesting stuff I'm finding in the emails. And then I was putting together this whole document, putting together all these different notes, and I was putting together all these email leaks over here. And a lot of them were like, I was just kind of picking out of the void, right? Picking out of searching different things and the various AI tools I've built to analyze these things, getting to the original sources and copying them and screenshotting the original file so I've got them. And a lot of them are kind of confusing and kind of lack context. And a lot of them I kind of could figure out the context, but it's all kind of vague, right? But even the ones that seem confusing or vague will be put together in the next section after this, okay? So just let your imagination kind of muddle over what you think these might mean. I found today from we don't know who at the start to Jeffrey Epstein in 2017, Edmund de Rothschild infrastructure expertise. And remember, you read from the bottom up on an email chain. And quickly, you'll notice that it's from Ariane de Rothschild because they protected her email address, but they didn't protect her signature for whatever reason. So this is an email chain with Ariane de Rothschild. The woman that he didn't write any emails to, that's her. Okay. At the bottom, this is very weird. Dear Jeff, As previously discussed between you and Ariane, Edmond de Rothschild is deeply involved in the building and financing of the infrastructure in Europe. Sounds like an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory to me. Edmond de Rothschild has an outstanding track record, history, and presence in European infrastructure, as well as being one of Europe's most recognized financial advisors to the infrastructure market. We have developed deep expertise in the infrastructure sector and sought secure, well-managed assets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have done so by initiating all this stuff. It sounds like a pitch, right? It sounds like some sort of investment pitch or something. We'll get back to that in a second. Epstein writes back in his normal, weird, clipped intelligence asset style that's hard to trace back to his true meanings. Thanks. The issue will be returns on investment. There is a huge amount of cash sitting on the sidelines. Trump will want to do private-public partnerships on most things. Donald loves the Rothschild name. This is back in 2017 in his first presidency. Okay? Ariane writes back. If it's a debt fund, they were thinking of building it around senior and mezzanine debt, which would yield 8 to 10% per year with a kicker. He responds, not likely in the States, too much money around. You should find a niche. Otherwise, the competing with people that have $1 trillion in credit needs. Ariane writes back, pension funds are now interested to match the maturities. So they're just having a conversation clearly about some sort of joint business venture, some sort of banking venture. She's kind of pitching ideas to him and getting him to advise her. It would appear that they have shared at least an email, right? Maybe just one. And it would appear that they're awfully anti-Semitic, claiming that Edmond de Rothschild is deeply involved in financing the infrastructure of Europe. I mean, come on. But then when you track down this email, there's a whole bunch of email like images that go with this email thread. And you can kind of tell from the wording here that Ariane did not send this original email. It's from someone else, from A.M. El Hachem, Johnny, someone that we're not really sure who it is at first. But then when you look through the emails and you track down House Oversight 026064, and then you go over to 026065, the pitch continues with their different investments. The pitch continues in 066 with their different investments in Bridge. And then it gets to the end of the email in 066067. Kind regards, Johnny Al Hashem, Edmond de Rothschild Private Equity. Okay, so this is a direct letter from Edmond de Rothschild Private Equity pitching a investment concept to Jeffrey Epstein, and then he's going back and forth about it with Ariane de Rothschild. Interesting. We'll get back to that in the future. This is another, so a lot of these images in the email leaks, they'll have one image with the first part of the conversation, and the next image in it will be the next email has been added, but it's the same for the rest of it. So this is the same email conversation with one more reply. Pension funds are now interested to match the maturities, right? That was her last email here. And in this version, there's another one. Epstein responds, yes, and their projections and needs are way above current spreads. At least in the States, hospitals are now looking to sell real estate, blah, 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 blah. Not politically correct, but profitable is alternate incarceration facilities, always tenants. You could always make money off of prisoners, Ariane. The Rothschilds would never do such a thing. They would never make money off of slavery or internment of any sort. They would never finance genocide or anything like that. Shame on you, Jeffrey Epstein. Shame on you. Shame. Okay. This is from an unknown sender who we know as Ariane de Rothschild because of her signature to Jeffrey Epstein in 2016. Starting at the beginning here, Jeffrey Epstein wrote, met a really interesting banker for you to meet. Former CFO Deutsche Bank, former CFO BMW, German, born in South America. A German born in South America, you say? Not very politically correct for a Rothschild to do business with a German born in South America, I would imagine. But I'm sure that won't stop her. I see who you're talking about. Brilliant. But I was told his wife didn't want to move from London, especially not Geneva. Do you mind asking him? And then, can you speak now? Which is code for, we're going to have a conversation that we shouldn't put in writing. So for dumb broad over on Twitter that thinks there's nothing suspicious in these emails, remember, they're fucking talking to Jeffrey Epstein. So it's already suspicious. That's the whole point of the Jeffrey Epstein files, right? But then they're also frequently, this happens with many of his best people, is they say, can you speak now, like on the phone? Because that's not in writing so that assholes like Ian Carroll won't be reading it to the whole world in 10 years. Ariane later on says, sorry, in the conference room listening to the Portuguese prime minister. Nothing revolutionary, really. Was watching TV last night. Either Trump is a misunderstood genius or it is going to be complicated. Okay, cool, whatever. Then there's all these other kind of just disparate emails that we're just going to briefly touch on. Some of them I think are the ones that I quoted to her. Ariane emails Jeffrey Epstein. Hi, Jeff. Would you mind asking Ehud whether or not he is advising the conference thing that we were talking about? Here they have the message from Adrian. These are the ones that I showed you earlier. And Ehud Barak says, I'm on the board of this, company that organized this conference, because she had asked about the conference. He says, but I'm not really sure what the question is. And he's like, I don't know either, dog. It's like, will you convey it to AR, meaning Adrian de Rothschild, or should I reformulate it in a softer and subtler manner? I'll be speaking to her in about an hour. Okay. Dear Ariane, 2014. I'll be very glad and honored to meet this Wednesday morning. This is from Ehud Barak to Ariane de Rothschild, CCing Jeffrey Epstein. I hardly know Geneva and will follow any recommendations of you regarding the place, an hour for the meeting. However, I stay here at the Four Seasons and we can have a breakfast in the hotel if that's the most convenient venue for you. Around noontime, I have to leave for Zurich. That's why I've asked to have it in the morning. Looking forward, best. So there's no mix-up on my part. This is from Jeffrey to Adrian de Rothschild. He's helping coordinate this meeting is what it looks like. So there is no mix-up on my part like the last time. Whoopsies. You are both addressed on this email, and I suggest you coordinate directly. Ariane, Ehud will meet for breakfast in Geneva on Tuesday, 18th morning at the location and time of your choice. Okay, so I'm intentionally reading these without a lot of context and explanation because we're going to get it in just a minute. And it's all going to link up. We already read through this long exchange. And then there's this one weird one that's really interesting that I just found right at the end of my, earlier today. I should show you guys the tool that I'm using. I should really show you guys the tool that I'm using. But this one is interesting. And it comes back in a minute. Ehud Barak to Jeffrey Epstein in April of 2017. It starts down here. Jeffrey sends a link of a New York Times article about something that actually I could click on in the initial, I've got them analyzed. I forget what you call it when you pull all the text out. And then Ehud writes back, hi, Jeff, I'm in Serengeti, Tanzania. No real communication, cannot open the New York Times article, but to judge from the article's title, they are at least exaggerating, if not totally wrong. This attack will not change strategy in a major way on either side. It will, however, raise respect for DJT in Moscow and few other capitals. That's not necessarily bad if the White House won't read this change as a precedent, which calls to be repeated too often. Best, Ehud Barak. And then Ehud Barak writes to Jeffrey Epstein. This is on April 30th, 2017. He writes, hi, Jeff. About time for our actions to turn into theater and movie pieces. Shall we talk? Any news from BC/ADR? Best, EB. Any ideas what BC or ADR are? And what does he mean by about time for our actions to turn into theater and movie pieces? Nifty. We're going to come back to this in a little bit. But it's important to remember, just to clarify, that there is not zero, nada emails that have anything to do with Epstein or a Rothschild anywhere in public view. You certainly can't go download them for yourself and just go open House Oversight 026075 and read this for yourself, because that would be anti-Semitic, obviously. Okay? So let me just make sure that we don't want to cover anything else down here before we go and get to cooking. Yeah, time to get cooking. I have this thing that grabs articles out in their entirety as this one long strip. And so we're going to start at the top of this article. Oh, hey, look at that. I recognize this title. Jeffrey Epstein pursued Swiss Rothschild Bank to finance Israeli cyber weapons empire. Shucks. That is the article that started this whole shitstorm on Twitter. Now, isn't it? Dumb broad. Let's read it. Let's find out just how well-sourced it is and just what they talk about in it. Because I am led to believe that it cites only one source for the entire article. And it's just Ehud Barak and Epstein bragging to each other about made-up bullshit. A serial liar, obviously. You can't trust it. This article is obviously bunk. Heaven forbid we think for ourselves and read a little bit. Reading is awfully anti-Semitic though, guys. So I guess we'll just have to do it. I guess we'll just have to forge ahead with our anti-Semitism. Jeffrey Epstein pursued Swiss Rothschild Bank to finance Israeli cyber weapons empire. They talk about the sourcing of where they're getting this all from, and they say, please contribute a little bit to help us do our work, because they're independent journalists and they're crushing it. Definitely support Ryan Grimm, Murtaza Hussein, and Dropsite News. Follow them on Twitter as well. So what I've done is I pulled out some of the most important parts so that we don't miss anything. We're not going to read the whole thing because that would be crazy. You can do that on your own, and it's all a great article. Every single sentence, every single paragraph is like, holy shit, bro. So we'll try to pick out the best parts. And you'll notice some familiar material when we go through this. But first, maybe I should show you how I found all of this. And we can get familiar with actually how much work these guys did in order to source all of this. Where is my boy Webb? We're going to take a minute for a brief word from our sponsor. This is Webb. And I am so excited to talk about this. This is a product that is in its early development stages, and it's going to be given out for free. So this is not a paid advertisement. This is my own buddies making cool shit for us because I needed it. And then I realized that we all need it, and we're just going to give it out because we need everyone to be able to have access to these files. And I cannot tell you how many people I have had text me being like, hey, dude, how are you getting into these files? Because I don't have time to open 20,000 files and read them for myself. Like, what the hell? It's like they're intentionally putting them out in the most idiotic and opaque way possible, specifically so that we cannot access them. Because the way that they're getting put out is as a Google Drive download, and it doesn't even come this organized. It actually comes in a Google Drive download that's so big that it gets packaged into multiple zip downloads that actually overlap in weird ways, and it gets downloaded all broken up. And then you actually have to rearrange the files to even get them in order in the first place as files. And then when you go into the files, it's literally just thousands of JPEGs with no context, no labeling, nothing at all. A bunch of them are the exact same thing, and it's just a whole bunch of files. And when you open them up, this is just like a page of a book. Ravages of Denial, Chapter 3. It has nothing to do with the emails. It's just someone linked it in an email, and now in here, there's like literally thousands of pages of a book that you don't even need. You wouldn't even realize that. And you would just spend a bunch of time reading thousands of pages of this book for no freaking reason. Okay? No one has time for this. These aren't emails. Where are the emails? These aren't emails. Where the hell are the emails? But don't worry. Dumb Broad on Twitter read it all multiple times, okay? It's also got, court documents that we've already seen. Confidential. Oh, that was helpful. So glad they put that in there. A redacted version of the black books and contact books that we've already got. Man, isn't that helpful? So as you can see, this is insane. And that's only, the first two folders. There's a bunch of them. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it's literally like 23,000 files, okay? So that's not very helpful. So how do we access them? Well, Webb is how we access them. And there's this fun string game where you connect the dots and the string, and you get all Pepe Silva, and you can just play with it forever. And oh gosh, it's fun. But we'll leave that. We'll leave that where it is for now. And it's just a little landing page that you can go check out for yourself, the web.io. It's not live yet. It's not ready yet. We literally just finished the first version that I can play with today, and I'll show you what that looks like. But the goal is here, and we're going to work towards that goal, and it will be out for free that you guys can download and use. It is an AI-based tool that you will have to plug in your own API from right now, Google Gemini, and there's a couple other options. We'll explain that later. You have to plug in your own API tool so that you can use it. And if you have, your own misgivings about using AI, I get it. Might not be the exact tool for you, but part of the point is that You're not uploading your files. You're not uploading your documents and interacting with them online on a web tool. You're actually downloading this to your computer, and you can just use this tool as a self-contained tool on your computer that doesn't require you. So if you have like some secret cache of documents, your documents aren't getting uploaded to like Google, for example. Obviously, like AIs do have some privacy concerns, and you should think for yourself on that. But ultimately, these are like public document dumps. And so this is a public tool for you to use however you want. And if you want to use it, you can use it. And you can look through this really sick-ass website that my homie put together for it if you want. And when it goes live, we'll let you know. But let me just show you a little bit about how it works. Where are you, web? Where are you? Okay. Here's web. So the thing about AI is that you can't trust it. Okay. I'm moving it over a little bit so that you guys can see this part. You can't trust AI. You need to be able to get to the sources. So it's not just that we need to have a tool that can analyze all these documents and tell you what's in them. It's that you need to have a tool that can analyze all these documents and you can talk to about it and learn what's in them. But then it needs to cite sources that you can click and open. Okay. And so, for example, earlier I asked it, who is Ariane de Rothschild? Point blank. I have all of the image files uploaded into here. And I just ask it, who's Ariane de Rothschild? And it builds a little dossier. Okay. She's a person. She's very important. There's a whole bunch of context in these documents. She gets mentioned this many times, which is kind of an at least in case it missed anyone. And it tells you what she's talking about with Epstein, and it cites sources. And then you can go and click on that source and it will open what it is. And this is in the emails, and it's from a magazine article it would look like. And there's another source. Oh, and that's one of the emails right there, right? Wasn't there a science person that worked with Consuelo that you thought interesting? Okay. Ooh, the Vanity Fair piece. I know what that's referring to. And it has turned all of this imagery into text that is now searchable, that I can search in here, but you can also use web to search. And it has cited tons of sources, and you can talk to it. You can ask, like, let's ask it a question. Let's ask, like, what businesses was Ehud Barak interested in? And we'll see if it works. Sick. Okay. Dude, we were so stoked when we got this to finally start spitting out answers today. I cannot even describe. What businesses were Ehud Barak in? Okay, here's what I can tell you about Ehud Barak's business interests based on the provided documents. He's a person. He's a politician. He's a military leader. He's mentioned at least 299 times. He's a prominent figure in Israeli politics, serving as prime minister. Source for that. Defense minister. Source. Foreign minister. Source. The sources aren't perfect yet. I'm not sure how much I would like. This might not be exactly what I'm hoping it is. Oh, actually, it is kind of. It's a piece from a big old document that's actually talking about the history of Israeli politics. Interesting. And Perez, it's probably from a book. I don't know why it's in the files, but it's in the files. Cool. His military experience shaped his approach to politics and policy. Source, relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Barak had communication with Jeffrey Epstein. Source. Cool. Sick, right? Like, you get the idea, right? It's going to be freaking cool, especially once we fine tune it. But why stop there when you could build a canvas just like an Obsidian file, but you could use that analytical process to dump this analysis like from the Jeffrey Epstein file leaks that were inaccessible 10 minutes ago. And then you can now make boards that right now it's not perfect. We can't draw lines yet. There's a lot of functions we still have to get right here. But now I can ask questions. Who is Ariane de Rothschild? It can answer and cite sources and pop out sources right here and stuff like that. You can drop screenshots in, and you can literally just screenshot off the internet. You find a good article about what you're researching, drop it in here. Actually, let me do that right now. Let me grab this is one of the sources about the sketchy French painting company, and I just grab a little screenshot and I drop it onto the canvas right there, and I'll drag it up. And then when I do that, yeah, that's what it's called. It's called OCRing. OCRing is how you get AI to analyze the image for text, okay? And you just click the OCR button, and it takes a second, and then it's processed, and it's saved into the memory of your project. So now when you ask it questions, it can also refer to everything that you just put into your Blackboard in the project. Do you see where this goes? Like, do you see what this could be and do, dog? Yeah, exactly. There's so much you can do with this. And then you can link things together. You can ask it more questions. You can chat about this specific source, right? So I don't know if this feature actually is working yet. I don't think it is. There's this cool stats feature my homie built in where you can ask it about statistics from within the files and it'll pop out all these cool freaking numbers and stats, but it's not really like exactly keyed in yet, but you see where it's going, right? So we're going to game on this for a while and get it really tight in the next week or so. We're getting really distracted by it because it's so much fun, but I just wanted to show it to you because that will help you understand how inaccessible these files were and how one of the solutions that I have been working on coming up with in order to make them more accessible. And that's how I found all of these emails is various versions of that, plus kind of digging through by hand and just kind of popping in and searching for things. And that's how I found all these disconnected emails that kind of lack context when you see them in that way, right? So I'm going to try not to get distracted by just talking about web anymore because I could just talk about that and the possibilities forever. But let's talk about this article and look at what Ryan Grimm has done for us and look at all the no evidence at all, the zero files, nada, the zero sources that exist in this article, okay? So, on July 31st, 2019, just 11 days before Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in a Manhattan jail cell, his connection to the Rothschild banking dynasty became the subject of major public controversy. Anonymous sources informed Bloomberg of a 2015 visit to Epstein's New York mansion by Baroness Ariane de Rothschild. Remember, this is back in the day before we knew all this stuff about them, okay? 4 years later, after Epstein's meeting calendars were leaked to the Wall Street Journal, the bank finally admitted that de Rothschild had met with Epstein as part of her normal duties at the bank between 2013 and 2019. Because when it was first anonymously leaked to Bloomberg, the CEO of Edmond de Rothschild Group, the spokesperson denied any relationship to the notorious American sex trafficker. Nada. Didn't happen. Don't believe it. Listen to Dumb Broad on Twitter. There's no evidence. But, and see, this is where I just grabbed a screenshot out of the article and blew it up here. So this is the same exact article, just easier to see with a highlight. So 4 years later, when the meeting calendars were leaked, then the bank finally admitted that, okay, maybe we talked to him, but it was only in an official capacity, bruh. Epstein provided introductions to U.S. finance leaders and law firms and provided tax and risk consulting, the bank disclosed, while also helping de Rothschild personally on a couple of occasions with advice on estate management. But the bank remained vague about the actual nature of this relationship with the convicted sex trafficker. But now we have a fuckload of evidence and it's about to get spicy. A second set of documents, the leaked inbox of former Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak, hacked by Handala and uploaded by a nonprofit whistleblower, sheds light on Epstein's efforts to leverage his personal friendship with de Rothschild to raise funds for the development of Israeli cyber weapons. After Barak's retirement from government in 2013, he recruited Pavel Gurevich, a graduate of the IDF's secret unit 80. It says Unit 81, which maybe it's a different unit than Unit 8200, their technology unit, to source cyber weapons startups from the Israeli intelligence community. Private communications show discussions about a wide range of cyber weapon concepts drawn from his Israeli military research. Epstein often played the role of middleman, handing off messages between the banker and the former prime minister, meaning between the Lady Rothschild and Ehud. And we have seen a lot of those, and we will see more. This is one of the sources that they cite. It's an old Bloomberg article. Jeffrey Epstein had a door into Apollo, his deep ties with Leon Black. When you search that article for Rothschild, you find this section here. For instance, in 2015, Black dispatched Apollo co-founder Mark Rowan to attend a meeting at Epstein's Manhattan mansion with Edmond de Rothschild Group to discuss how the two firms could work more closely, two people said. Ariane de Rothschild and Cynthia Tobiano represented the European banking dynasty at Epstein's home. The people said, though, no follow-up meetings or deals ensued. I do not know what you're referring to, said Florence Galbert, a spokeswoman for Edmond de Rothschild, adding that the bank had no business links with Apollo or Epstein. Nada at all. Okay? It's not clear whether the Rothschild Bank ultimately participated directly in Epstein and Barak's cyber weapons efforts, but in October 2015, de Rothschild negotiated a $25 million contract with Epstein's Southern Trust Company, the same entity that Epstein used to fund Barak's intelligence-linked security startup, Reporty Homeland Security, known as Carbine now, earlier that year. This ties into all sorts of funny business. And it cites actual newspaper articles where it actually says things like in September 2013, Epstein asked Mr. Rothschild in an email for help finding a new assistant. Female, multilingual, organized. I'll ask around, Mr. Rothschild emailed back. She bought nearly $1 million worth of auction items on Epstein's behalf in 2014 and 2015, the documents show. It continues. That October, she and Epstein negotiated a $25 million contract for Epstein's Southern Trust Company to provide risk analysis and the application and use of certain algorithms for the bank, according to a proposal reviewed by the Journal. So no sources except for, the Wall Street Journal. No sources except for Bloomberg. Right? Apparently dumb broad can't read. Okay? And we are just getting warmed up here. Just wait till we get to the emails. So this is about the second set of documents. House disclosures show that Epstein and Rothschild remained close in the years before Epstein's death. In an email exchange in 2018 with former Obama White House counsel Catherine Ruemmler, who we have met many times. Where are you, Kathy? Where are you, Kathy? Oh, there you are. There you are. She has emailed Jeffrey Epstein a lot. He referred her to JP Morgan in 2019, like just months before he was killed. They exchanged emails like about the boss coming to town. You need to talk to boss. This one. Yes, I will be like the emergency room doctor at Lenox Hill. Put that crazy in room 1. Gunshot in surgery and the cook, well, he can wait. Reed's guy went down on all 7 counts, meaning Reed Hoffman's guy went down on all 7 counts. Some sort of sex offense. And that's after turning down misdemeanors? Whoops. Yep. And now he is a repeat offender. Double whoops. Yeah. We will now go through a period of self-reflection and despair. Reed or Governor? Governor is not Jewish. This is Kathy Ruemmler, Obama's chief White House counsel, and Jeffrey Epstein emailing back and forth. A very cozy relationship. Lots of emails passing back and forth between them, just to remind us. But this one's a new one. He wrote to Ruemmler, Ariane said Ben giving her a very hard time and did not know about tattoo. She said he wants her to do wife-like things. Ugh, Ruemmler replied, barf. So, Jeffrey Epstein writes to Kathy Ruemmler in 2018, just a few short years, really a year before he died almost. And it goes from the bottom to top. Are you feeling better today? Kathy asks him. Well, while he might like to, his lawyer would advise him against it. Are you feeling better today? She's checking in on him. Isn't that sweet? Checking in on your totally not friend, just business, just professional, just I didn't even know about him kind of relationship. Jeffrey responds, only slightly. Ariane said Ben, her husband, giving her a very hard time, as in Ben, the Rothschild one, and did not know about tattoo. Uh-oh. Ariane got a tattoo that her husband didn't know about? And he's giving her a very hard time. That's a bummer. Let's gossip some more. What is Benjamin upset about? Uh-oh, you dimed out. She said he wants her to do wife-like things. Ugh, barf. Yup. Isn't that cute? Ruemmler met Epstein when he reached... I did not know this part. Ruemmler met Epstein when he reached out after she left the Obama administration on behalf of the Rothschild Bank, asking if she'd be willing to represent them in an ongoing Department of Justice investigation into money laundering and tax evasion. Ruemmler accepted and helped negotiate a non-prosecution agreement. I did not know that. When she left the Obama administration, Epstein, representing the Rothschilds, connected her to the Rothschilds so that she, as an attorney, could represent the Rothschilds to help them evade the law and get out of a tax violation. That's crazy, dog. It's right here. No sources, not one. Zilch, nada. Except for all these fucking sources. U.S. Department of Justice, tax divisions, Washington, D.C. It's all here. You can read it yourself. Signatures and all. It's crazy. In early 2013, while Ehud Barak was entering the final months of his term as Israel's Minister of Defense, he was being privately, and remember, this is Ehud Barak, former Prime Minister of Israel, and one of the most decorated service members of the IDF in all of Israel's history. He was the head of Israeli military intelligence. He was deeply involved in all sorts of covert operations over the years. Totally was not Jeffrey Epstein's handler, despite all these emails. So as he was ending his term as Israel's Minister of Defense, he was being privately courted by international private banks in Davos, Switzerland. Where have I heard that phrase before, that place? What else happens in Davos, Switzerland? I forget. Who sought to use his political connections to attract ultra-wealthy individuals as new clients. In March of 2013, soon after he resigned from the defense ministry, Barak received a rainmaker agreement from Boris Kolyardi, then CEO of Julius Baer Group, a Swiss private bank based in Zurich. The agreement offered Barak over $750,000 for a 1-year retainer, while naming him as a strategic advisor. Over $750,000 just to advise them. And what that means is to exchange political connections with them. Like, his boy Jeffrey, maybe. And all of his friends, maybe. Just a thought, right? Yeah, we are going max tonight, Marion Moon. Because why not? I mean, I'm just reading. I'm just reading. I don't even know what's going on out here. I'm just reading news. Right? We're allowed to read news, right? Offering geopolitical advice to bank leadership. In his pitch to Julius Baer, he recommended that the bank seek out new sources for capital in uncharted waters, proposing in an email Russian, probably Chinese, as well as Jewish, non-U.S., capital as new major sources for capital. Simultaneously, Barak signed $1 million contract with Renova Group, a Russian conglomerate, as DropSite previously reported. And they linked that. Barak and Epstein frequently discussed regulatory issues facing their Swiss bank partners, meaning the Rothschilds, as Epstein scouted opportunities to finance Barak's cybersecurity enterprise. The email datasets, which are mostly clustered between 2012 to 2016, show Barak and Epstein working on a partnership between Ariane de Rothschild and Boris Kolyardi, then CEO of Swiss bank Julius Baer. Right? These names start coming back up, and the old emails that we saw are about to start becoming very relevant. We're about to get a lot of context on all of those emails that we found independently. And that's the thing, is that remember that the whole point of independent investigation is that you should be able to verify everything that you see. Because if they can find it, you can find it. And when I went looking in the files on my own, in my own methods, my own sources and methods, my own AI tools, my own just random digging, I dug up all those emails that we looked at earlier, and you're about to see another journalist report on them from a totally different sourcing. Edmund de Rothschild Group and Julius Baer were both implicated in major tax evasion and money laundering investigations during the same time period. The communications do not reflect Epstein or Barak's involvement with the bank's response to the investigations. Ehud Barak to Jeffrey Epstein. Not a surprise to you, I believe. Let's talk about it later. I'm back from Moscow and Zurich on my way to my mother's 100th birthday. Sent from iPhone. Oh, I didn't read this one earlier, but it is down here. We must have skipped over it. It's right here. It's the last one. We skipped over it, but it's this one that we found earlier. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I know this email. And I didn't really have the context because I didn't know who Julius Baer was at the time, but now I do. And it's the original messages. I hear that Ehud Barak has decided to work for Julius Baer. Too bad. We may have been able to offer him something, but too late. And then Ehud Barak sends to Jeffrey Epstein. Not a surprise to you, I believe. Let's talk about it later. I'm back from Moscow and Zurich on my way to my mother's 100th birthday. Okay. 3 days after the press release about Barak's hiring was published that July, Olivier Colomb, the senior advisor to Benjamin de Rothschild's famous Edmund de Rothschild Bank, sent an email to Barak's close associate, Jeffrey Epstein. So the Rothschilds, through their, senior advisor, or through their Olivier, I guess he's the representative in this case, he messages Jeffrey and is like, lame. We were hoping to hire Ehud Barak and get all of those connections, but I guess since he's working with this other guy, I guess it won't work that way. Too bad. We may have been able to offer him something, but too late. Epstein forwarded the message to Barak, who replied, not a surprise to you, I believe. Let's talk about it later. Oh, context, right? So now we know where this email is coming from. And when a great investigative journalist like Ryan Grimm, when they go and dig into this stuff and apply other sources and methods to put the context around these emails, they start to have a lot more depth. And you're going to see that with all these other emails that are going to come up that we've already seen. Barack, however, was not a big fan of de Rothschild. He sent Epstein an article on Edmund de Rothschild's $300 million investment fund for Africa, in which Ariane explained, because remember, her husband had died, not of heroin overdose, but, just died mysteriously. Totally natural causes, though. I'm not trying to suggest that she killed him. That's not what I'm trying to suggest. But then she took over, and apparently they don't really respect her that much. Because Ariane explains in this article that the bank hoped to invest in a booming consumer economy, not endless war for resources. Shucks, no more war for resources. Let's help Africa. And Ehud Barak wrote to Jeffrey Epstein, Africa will be the equivalent of China. What is of interest to me? Oh, no, this is what she said. Africa will be the equivalent of China. What is of interest to me is that it is not led anymore by minds and energy, but that banks and insurance companies are developing, which all sounds really great, obviously. It's not like banks or insurance agencies are corrupt ever. That's what she said. But Barack was horrified, captioning the article when he sent it to Jeffrey, globalization of cultural and media consumption. Epstein was similarly chagrined. I am aware, he lamented, she is lost. It's no mystery why Epstein and Barack disagreed with the Rothschilds' take on Africa. The two men were simultaneously engaged in mining and energy investments in several African countries, selling Israeli security technology to embattled presidents in Nigeria and Ivory Coast and beyond, creating a booming consumer economy in Africa that was not on their agenda. They were trying to sell weapons and spy technology from Israel. And we've already covered this article, also from Dropsite News, also from Murtaza Hussein and Ryan Grimm. Excellent article. We covered it in a recent stream. And in that article, they've got more email evidence about how this new African warlord that they helped take power and sell all this frickin' spy technology and weapons to that was illegal and was sanctioned, and how the warlord's niece was one of Jeffrey Epstein's girls that he was flying all over the world. Where's her name? It's in here somewhere. Nina Keita, 3:00 meeting. With Nina Keita and her cousin, Dramain Ouattara, and his wife, Louise. Dramain Ouattara, I'm pretty sure, is the warlord, or maybe the brother of the warlord, I think. One or the other. And they've got photos of some of the alleged Israeli weapons that were not supposed to be sold there, all sorts of stuff. It's a really great article. Do we skip something? No. On November 18th, Barack sent Epstein a link to a news article about Edmund de Rothschild's bank opening a new London branch with the message, "Any news recently from the lady?" 3 days later, Epstein passed along a message from Rothschild to Barack. My thoughts were confirmed when it was said to me. If Ehud wants to make serious money, he will have to build a relationship with me. It takes time so that we can truly understand one another. Epstein told Barack he didn't respond to de Rothschild's offer. I just listened. Barack was eager to exploit the opportunity, but he deferred to Epstein on the psychology of women. I'm ready, but I need your advice. How? Ladies is your forte, Jeffrey. And we already saw that. It's not there, but we have it down here. Where is it? Any news from the lady? Not those ones. Maybe it's actually in the other. Yeah, it's in the other batch. We won't go hunt it down right now. But we've seen that email, and it's like, oh, there's more context. I always thought it was funny that Ehud Barak was asking Jeffrey Epstein for advice with the ladies. Kind of fucking gross, too, to be honest. Especially when you hear the reporting about what the victims allege that Ehud Barak did. Then it gets really fucking dark. But this is the whole email chain in order. My thoughts were confirmed when it was said to me, if Ehud wants to make serious money, he will have to build a relationship with me. Who said that? Rothschild. I'm ready, but I need your advice. How? Ladies is your forte. Time, attention, stable, recurring, predictable, where, what, when. See, Jeffrey always talks in these like coded, split up ways. I'm ready. Let's plan it. I will need some guide along the way. I've also thought on the donor advised VC. Probably we can initiate 4 to 5% of overall planned volume based on advanced Israeli technologies in mobile tech and cybersecurity, life sciences, medical devices, food security. Talk to you over the weekend. Okay, consider you Michael Hayden? Michael Hayden? Excuse me? And I'm kind of acting because I've read it already and I know that Michael Hayden's about to come up. But let's just remind ourselves who Michael Hayden is. Retired United States Air Force 4-star general and former director of the NSA. Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence. There's a couple scandals in his history. Is it in the top of this? I think it was related to torturing prisoners at Guantanamo Bay and spying on American citizens back when we still remember that that's illegal. Yeah, Michael Hayden, former NSA director. Great. He's involved in Jeffrey Epstein and Ehud Barak's networks? You better believe it. Consider you Michael Hayden and Keith Alexander. Would be easy to raise serious money. You wouldn't have to do the dog and pony show from Jeffrey to Ehud. Because Ehud's trying to pitch this investment fund idea, this big donor-advised venture capital fund. And he's like, you should get Michael Hayden in on it, bro. I'll introduce you. I guess actually Epstein had been pursuing it. Epstein had been pursuing the concept of a large donor-advised fund for several years, according to unsealed emails from the U.S. Virgin Island lawsuit against J.P. Morgan Chase Bank. After the 2008 financial crisis, which Epstein had nothing to do with, Epstein tried to convince J.P. Morgan executives to establish a donor-advised fund backed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which Jeffrey Epstein had nothing to do with, until he was forced out of the American bank in 2013 because the what's it called? The London whale scandal broke out. And then suddenly the regulators were really cracking down on JP Morgan's books. And they were like, we should probably get this Jeffrey Epstein guy out of our bank before they find him, because that will not be good. And that's when they kicked Jeffrey Epstein out right around 2013. And that's when he went to Deutsche Bank. And Deutsche Bank was very happy to scoop him up. He was scooped up. The connection was made by a guy that had worked at JP Morgan with Jeffrey Epstein. And then just went and was like, hey, Jeffrey, we've got a spot for you. We'll take good care of all your money and all of your legitimate business dealings. We've got a back door right over there. Walk in. He continued to shop the idea to European private banks after he moved his accounts to Deutsche Bank in August of that year. Barak asked Epstein for help building the relationship with de Rothschild. I will need some guide along the way. Epstein reassured Barak that he was in good company with former U.S. military leaders with lucrative careers peddling intelligence-linked cybersecurity products, former NSA and CIA director, I forgot about CIA director, Michael Hayden, and U.S. Cyber Command Keith Alexander. Doing business with Jeffrey Epstein. He wrote, okay, consider you Michael Hayden and Keith Alexander. Would be easy to raise serious money. You wouldn't have to do the dog and pony show. It gets into some more of the kind of like the technicals that aren't really about the Rothschilds and such. In the meantime, Epstein continued to foster the growing personal relationship between Barak and Ariane de Rothschild. On January 30th, 2014, Epstein invited Barak to a dinner meeting in Paris with himself, de Rothschild, and French President Nicolas Sarkozy. And we already saw this one, where Epstein was brokering this meeting. Ehud would prefer to come to the office in the afternoon. Could he make it at 2:30 p.m. or at 6 p.m.? I'm stuck in between with a board that I've already canceled twice. 2:30? Thanks, best. 2:30 p.m. Paris, okay with me. Where? Address. Boom. He's organizing this meeting. The morning after a scheduled meeting at the Rothschild Bank, Barak flew to Germany to attend the Munich Transatlantic Security Conference. There, he met with Michael Hayden, the former NSA director whom Epstein had previously name-dropped while coaching Barak on the strategy for financing cyber weapons. Before his flight, Barak's wife, Neely Priel, emailed him a dossier on Hayden to prepare him for the meeting. After the conference, Barak sent an email to Hayden thanking him for the appointment, while referencing an unspecified plan to be set in motion. Quote, "It was good meeting with you in Munich. I meant what I've said to you and wonder whether we can meet later this month to review the options. Let me know if the whole idea makes sense to you." I wonder what the whole idea was. Unfortunately, Michael Hayden didn't respond to these journalists' requests for comment. Big surprise. Epstein later emailed Barak asking for an update on the talks. How was Munich? Barak replied, Munich was okay. Better to talk over the phone. Because we probably shouldn't put it in writing, whatever the whole idea is. Because then we might get some ideas about what the idea is. Barak and Hayden tried to schedule a follow-up meeting in New York City the following week on February 26, but their trips missed overlapping by a few hours. Hayden promised, we'll keep working on it. And neither Fegel nor Hayden responded to interview requests for DropSite. The realization of the Zionist vision, just to remind us all, While plans for the donor-advised fund incubated, Epstein found more opportunities to bring Rothschild and Barak together under the banner of philanthropy and Israeli national security policy. On March 30th, 2014, Epstein sent Barak an email. "I'm trying to figure out how I can be more helpful." The next day, Epstein passed along a message to Barak from the Rothschild Baroness. "Hi, Jeff. Would you mind asking Ehud whether or not he is advising the Herzliya Conference editorial committee on bringing to the conference former or current defense ministers and security specialists?" And I remember reading this email, but I didn't have context on what the Herzliya Security Conference was. The Herzliya Conference is an annual national security policy summit run by the Institute for Policy and Strategy, founded by ex-Mossad research chief Uzi Arad. The conference convenes Israel's top political, security, intelligence, and business leadership to shape the country's security agenda. Barak was on the board of directors for the Interdisciplinary Center, Herzliya, which organized the conference. Another email. This is the one that we already saw. "I'm on the board, but I don't really know what the question is. I sent you what I know. We'll convey it. Will you convey it to Adrian de Rothschild, or should I reformulate it in a softer and subtler manner?" The French branch of the Rothschild family was essential to founding the modern state of Israel, the Jewish state. The 1896 pamphlet, considered the foundation of modern Zionism, was originally titled "Address to the Rothschilds." What? In it, Theodore Herzl appealed to Edmund James de Rothschild, whose family had become prominent financiers of the European colonial enterprise. I wonder what industries they were financing to finance the European colonial enterprise. To finance settlements for Jews fleeing ghettos and pogroms in Europe. Oh, obviously it was all for good stuff. It was all good stuff. Yeah, no slavery or nothing like that. None of that. Slavery was over. The Rothschilds' heir established the Palestine Jewish Colonization Association to purchase land for Jewish settlers. In 1948, Zionist paramilitary Haganah violently expelled the residents of a fishing village near the ruins of Caesarea and demolished most of the homes that remained. In 1962, Edmund James de Rothschild and the Israeli government agreed to convert the Caesarea lease into a tax-exempt nonprofit foundation in which the foundation would develop the real estate around Caesarea, with profits distributed as grants for higher education in Israel. So let's first ethnically cleanse, murder, and kill and push out all of these Palestinians, take the land, then we'll demolish the villages, and we'll build a nice nonprofit on top of it for Jewish causes. As the Rothschilds, good guys. But in 2010, regulators discovered that the foundation held nearly 500 million shekels in surplus liquidity at the end of the year, but only contributed 20 million shekels to higher education. Held nearly 500 million shekels, but only contributed 20 million to higher education, which was their mission. They're a tax-exempt charity. The Israeli Tax Authority issued an income tax assessment for more than 100 million shekels, challenging the foundation's tax-exempt status. Because it was a front organization, just like all these other charities, allegedly. There's a video of her speaking that I won't subject you to. Barak had been scheduled to speak at Herzliya on June 10, 2014, and he planned to meet with de Rothschild at the conference. Then, a few days before the conference began, Epstein informed Barak of last-minute plans for a dinner meeting with Peter Thiel on June 9th. It's Peter Thiel! It's our buddy Peter! What's up, Peter? Have you figured out yet, Peter, if the human race should endure? I think we're still waiting on you to figure out if you think that the human race should endure, Peter. So they were going to meet on June 9th at Epstein's mansion in Manhattan. So Barak remained in New York and canceled his meeting with de Rothschild in Israel because Peter Thiel was more important, I guess. Whoopsies. Dinner with Peter Thiel and Ehud, 8 o'clock. Schedule from Leslie Groff, his assistant, who's still out there walking free. No one's asked her very many questions. No one's deposed her. She has blanket immunity from Jeffrey Epstein's original sweetheart deal that was illegal. I think we're almost done. After hanging up the phone, Epstein immediately emailed de Rothschild to set up a meeting with Barack. Epstein scheduled a breakfast at de Rothschild's home on June 18th. Before, Epstein privately emailed Barack to brief him. She has a real problem with her foundation and the Israeli government. I will need 20 minutes of your time to brief you. After the meeting, Epstein pinged Barack for an update, writing question mark. Barack asked for a number to call so they could speak on the phone privately, away from you assholes on the internet that might read their emails later on. Finally, in 2018, the Rothschild Foundation and the Israeli government announced that they had reached a new pact. As part of the deal, the foundation agreed to invest over $200 million in education grants in Israel. I don't know if it's dollars or shekels. It has a dollar sign. While releasing land to build 2,000 homes in the seaside town of Or Akiva, a nearly exclusively Jewish community. The foundation fought efforts, meanwhile, to advance land to the adjacent Palestinian-Israeli town of Jisr al-Zarqa. The agreement extended the foundation's tax-exempt status until at least 2032. You're all good now that the money's flowing. In a statement announcing the pact, the Israeli government praised the considerable contribution of the Rothschild family to the realization of the Zionist vision and to the state of Israel. Dropsite was unable to confirm whether Barack or Epstein were involved in the resolution to the dispute. But the Rothschilds were sure involved in the resolution to the dispute because they've done so much for Israel. He is ready, assured discreetness. In May of this year, Edmond de Rothschild's Bank Luxembourg unit was convicted of money laundering. Not this year, not 2025. This would be, 2016. It's the year that they were already referring to. Edmond de Rothschild's Bank's Luxembourg unit was convicted of money laundering related to embezzlement from Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund. What? Why are the Rothschilds embezzling Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund? How would the Rothschilds have access to another nation's sovereign wealth fund? I thought they didn't control other countries or anything like that. That's weird. I thought they were just doing philanthropy. This marked the first time that a bank in Luxembourg had ever been convicted of money laundering, which is saying a lot for a place like Luxembourg. If you know, you know. The Swiss financial regulator FINMA also found Julius Baer, a name we recognize, with whom Barack had a consulting agreement, committed major anti-money laundering violations during the same period. Boris Koyardi, a name we recognize, the head of Julius Baer, was personally reprimanded by FINMA. Very bad. Very, very bad, Julius. Very bad. Slap. Don't ever do it again. And if you do, make sure you cut us in on the profits. Epstein and Barack were intimately familiar with money laundering and tax evasion issues facing Edmond de Rothschild and Julius Baer, and frequently discussed these topics with each other and occasionally with the heads of the banks. In December 2015, Edmond de Rothschild Bank entered its non-prosecution agreement under the Department of Justice Swiss bank program. The bank paid $45 million and admitted that they had done a very bad. Very bad. We admit it. We'll pay a little fine. Just let us go, please. In April 2016, the same month as the Panama Papers leak, the conversations between Epstein and Barack in the former Israeli prime minister's inbox came to a halt. Funny. One of the very last conversations, if you don't know about the Panama Papers leak, it was major, and it was all about all of these money laundering activities in the islands, as well as a lot of other stuff. One of the very last conversations between the two men concerned a discreet meeting between de Rothschild and Koyardi. On April 27th, Barack emailed Epstein about weekend schedules, and Epstein replied, quote, "She said she would call me after the general meeting." 2 days later, on April 29th, Barack wrote Epstein, "I met BC, Boris Koyardi, today in Monaco. He is ready. Assured discreetness. Any news from ADR? Adrian de Rothschild." Remember this one? We read this one earlier. Assured discreetness. Any news from ADR? I'm not sure if I read this one to you guys or if I just read it earlier today. And last one. On April 30th, 2017, Barack shared a cryptic email with Epstein in an email thread discussing a New York Times review of the Broadway play Oslo about Norwegian diplomat Terje Rød Larsen, a close friend of Epstein who played a part in the 1990s peace process between Israel and the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Quote, "About time for our actions to turn into theater and movie pieces," Barack wrote cheekily. "Shall we talk? Any news from BC/ADR? Boris Koyardi or Adrian de Rothschild? Epstein wrote back, both have the flu. Barack replied, high stress. About time for our actions to turn into theater and movie pieces in 2017. Huh. That's interesting. So, that is a really bad news article from really bad journalists that have no sources at all. It's really important that you remember that this news article has no sources at all. Just one really, really bad source, okay, from a serial liar. You can't trust it, okay? And when presented with the direct evidence, it's important to remember not to believe your own eyes and not to read. So let's tie in the final piece here that we skipped over earlier. Why is France so significant to this deep state, to this international cabal of who knows who that seems to be pulling an awful lot of strings behind the scenes? That seems to be involved in weird purchases of airplane hangars in Delaware for repainting airplanes. Financed, obviously, by like French government and French military and French intelligence-linked firms and money. What would France ever have to do with this stuff other than the Rothschild banking arm being really, really a big part of France? Well, his name is Emmanuel Macron, and he's the fucking president there. And I'm sure you've all seen this coming. And I just want to remind you, before we get to this part, before we get to that part, let's all remember some of the stuff that was out there before, but many of us were probably made aware of by Candace Owens' reporting. Emmanuel Macron is well known to be a Rothschild protege. And that's to quote David de Rothschild himself. He had worked as an investment banker at Rothschild & C Bank between 2008 and 2012, after being a regulator in France, mind you. Revolving doors, always revolving. Recruited at the end of 2008, Macron was promoted to a partner with the bank in 2010. In just 2 years, he earned about 2.9 million euros while working for the Rothschilds, according to Financial Times. When assuming office, Macron carried out a string of measures for the rich and companies. He reduced the official corporate tax rate to 25% from 33%, slashed taxes for manufacturers, introduced a flat tax of 30% on investment income, and replaced a wealth tax on very rich with a tax on real estate assets valued at more than 1.3 million euros. Always helping out your own buddies, you know? In September 2018, Financial Times called Macron David de Rothschild's protege and cited the banker as hailing the French president as decisive, extremely intelligent, courageous, and doing what he said he would do. When asked by Financial Times about Macron's unlikely ascent to the presidency, de Rothschild responded that it just seems like the planets have aligned. Because the planets always seem to align for people that are in the club. You know? It's just fate. Don't look too much into it. Don't ask too many questions how this all happens, or you might wind up being an anti-Semite. And that would be bad. During Macron's presidency, the Rothschilds restructured their financial businesses with their major companies, Rothschild & Co., because the Rothschild banks in France had been nationalized multiple times, meaning that France had been like, y'all are too fucking big and powerful, and we're going to take this. It's like you're basically just like a state asset anyways. We're going to make it a state asset and try to get control of it and make it a public good, so to speak, kind of. Good luck with that. But during Macron's presidency, they went through a deal to make it private again, and they took it back in 2023 in a family-led 3.7 billion euro deal. In March of 2023, Reuters placed emphasis on the Rothschilds' recent expansion into private banking and asset management and becoming very active and dynamic, because they are very much still active and dynamic. And you can read about it in all sorts of different sources, from before the election, from during the election, from since the election. This is one of my favorite articles, Signs of the Times. I put the source link right there. But if you just search for this title, you'll be able to find it too. Very good keywords. Very well sourced with direct links to sources in the article. All of these gray pop-outs are direct sources that are cited. And we're not going to go through all of them. We're just going to read a little bit of commentary. As you read, this is based upon a Financial Times article, a very respected, very mainstream source. As you read, it becomes very clear that he was groomed from day one by a Rothschild partner and ended up on a fast track like I've never seen before. The author is from Wall Street. But first, let's examine the first 2 paragraphs of the article, which betrays the man's intentions, because the Financial Times is shilling for the establishment narrative because it's controlled, just like all the other mainstream publications. When Emmanuel Macron told friends in 2008 he was joining Rothschild, the prestigious investment bank, the then 30-year-old civil servant was warned that it could scupper a future career in politics. Quote, "You're conscious that banking is not any kind of job, and Rothschild not any kind of bank," said one friend to the man who 9 years later would become the front runner in France's presidential election. Quote, "Meanwhile, Macron is likely a conspiracy website's wet dream. Not only was he groomed by Rothschild bankers, he was also a Bilderberg meeting attendee in 2014. Of course. Incredibly enough, Macron's personal life is just as bizarre. Wikipedia notes that raised in a non-religious family, he was baptized a Roman Catholic at his own request at age 12. Impressive that the man figured out religion at such a young age, but what's even more bizarre is what he did 3 years later. At 15, as I'm sure you've heard, shortly after discovering Jesus, he decided to seduce his high school teacher, who was 24 years older and married with 3 children. I'm not in the habit of quoting Slate, but an article on the topic published there was excellent, and we learn all about it. And this is where we get to becoming Brigitte. Candace Owens and Xavier Poussard. And I'm sure you've heard about it. I'm sure you know. I'm sure you've watched the series. I'm sure you remember the slap, push, whatever it was. Just a friendly banter. Obviously, this is very, very mean and very bad. Bad Candace. Very anti-Semitic of her to ask questions about this woman, obviously, that has no photos of her past, no photos of her pregnant, no photos of her as a young girl, no photos of her raising her children at all. She's completely unable to answer some very basic questions that Candace posed to her way back at the beginning of 2025. But she will do frivolous lawsuits for unrelated reasons. She won't call you a liar, but she'll lawsuit you over other frivolous things that make no sense. This is just a small compilation of sources that Candace cited back in her very first episode on the matter, including, by the way, the book that President Macron very clearly intentionally put into his presidential picture by a notorious pedophile that wrote things like this that I'm not even going to read out loud. Probably shouldn't even put on the screen for too long. Kind of weird. And then journalists that start reporting on the story wind up mysteriously dead in the water, literally. And then other ones get sued, but they claim that it was for lying about her, but that's not actually what the suit was about. They just spin it in the media that they totally don't control. Yeah. I mean, I'm just reading. Obviously, I would never believe these anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Chat is crazy. I don't know what the story is here, but you could go and, watch Becoming Brigitte for yourself. It's taken the world by storm. And Candace couldn't help but notice that this Rothschild protege that didn't even know what EBITDA was somehow made partner at the most prestigious bank in the land within 2 years and then was groomed and became president. But he'd already been groomed. I mean, he had groomed his teacher when he was 15, his female teacher that was so hot that all the 15-year-old boys just had the hots for their late 30s teacher or whatever it was. That's normal. Not a plant, not MK Ultra. No, no, no. And this just so happens to be surrounding the Rothschild family in the heart of the Rothschild banking empire, controlled by a woman. And then Candace notices that the moment that she starts reporting on it, this whole story happens. They come after her. They get Donald Trump to literally call her and tell her to stop reporting on it. It blows up even more. She keeps reporting on it. Charlie Kirk starts talking about it. Tucker starts talking about it. Tucker talks about it on the Turning Point USA stage. Then you wind up with these planes from Egypt. From Egypt. Not from their neighbor. From Egypt. Flying into this weird hangar in Delaware with a foreign dignitary that we don't know who it is. Can't imagine who it would be. And then, as we showed earlier, we just do a tiny bit of digging into this weird company, Satis, that buys this hangar for 2 years and paints planes. And we immediately discover that they're funded by a whole bunch of state money, military and intelligence-linked firms. And that it looks an awful lot like the pattern of a dual-use corporation that's a private entity. Nothing sketchy there, except that it looks just like what you would see if it was actually a covert operation under the cover of a private company. And it seems to be working with people in the U.S. government, in the U.S. intelligence agencies. Can't imagine which ones. And then Charlie Kirk gets shot in the neck on live TV, sending a pretty clear message to the peasants. Did it freeze? Did it really freeze? Is it frozen? Twitch is saying it's frozen. Bro, Twitch is gone, dogs. Twitch is gone. It's still up on YouTube, right? I still see myself on YouTube. But YouTube doesn't realize they can see in the chat. Maybe we got a little too spicy for the Twitch. Is it a bot raid? I don't know. But hopefully Twitch will figure it out. We're going to keep on going on YouTube. Because for now, we're still moving. If you haven't seen the movie or the video we put out last week about how we got attacked on Twitch by bots as soon as we started digging into Pastor Rob McCoy, you might want to go watch that one. But you see what we're putting together here? How, here, I'll take the chat off. You see what we're putting together? How all these pieces actually do connect in a weird way? Okay, Twitch is back. Just started a new live stream. Cool. Reboot. We back. Yeah, you see how the pieces connect, and we're putting them together through this open source online reporting, this decentralized intelligence agency that's established on the internet. You see how powerful the truth is and how quickly we see through the veil these days? That's a threat. That's the biggest threat. Because what we are describing, I mean, based on this terrible reporting with no sources that we're just reading, obviously I don't believe any of it, just to be clear. It's very anti-Semitic. It's all tinfoil. You might as well just put your tinfoil straight into the microwave and turn it on. But we all kind of have this feeling that the world doesn't work for us. In fact, it works distinctly against us. It works for the billionaire class. It works for the corporate overlords. It works for the government insiders, the permanent government, the ones that we don't elect, the ones that actually call the shots, you know, the ones that when people like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel get in there with the release the Epstein files, and then suddenly it's a fucking binder full of stuff we already had, and then it's a hoax, and then we don't even know. They're like, look at the cell cameras. He killed him, so we know he did. I'm sure he did. Don't call my girlfriend a honeypot, you evil people. Right? Who's really running this fucking thing? The answer is criminals. The answer is an international, organized criminal cabal. And at the top of every cabal is money. And who's at the top of the money? Who has infiltrated all of these nations and all of these organizations and been working together to pull the strings here and pull the strings there and shut up, Michael. Or rather, whatever it is, you know, you accidentally died. He accidentally died. To be clear. Shut up, Kanye, or you're going to go to crazy land. No more talking. Duh. Charlie Kirk sends a text message to his donors. I have no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. Because of you assholes, was kind of the subtext. Pow, you're dead. No more talking. Because talking is dangerous. When you have a world order built on lies and deception and blackmail and scum, talking, telling the truth, worshiping God is the greatest threat that there can be. That's why I believe, allegedly, I mean, I don't even believe it really. That's why these kooks on the internet might think, they might get the crazy idea that maybe that's the reason why Benjamin Netanyahu would refer to this as the next front in the war, as the most important part of this operation. And they have to rely on social media, on our influencers. And the most important ones, obviously, are TikTok and X, because that's where we need to control the narrative the most. And maybe that's why AIPAC isn't registered as a foreign agent in our nation. Because maybe then it's not as easy to see the payments that are paying for the propaganda, that are paying for the silence, that are paying for the lies, that are paying for you to have no frickin' sources in your danged articles, you stupid peasant. Not one, nada, never. Don't read it with your eyes, because that would be anti-Semitic. And we might put you on one of our lists with one of our many organizations. You know, take your pick. We got lots of them. And they'll all call you an evil Nazi. Ruin your careers, get you fired. Maybe even worse. Know what I'm saying? You could see why a crazy conspiracy theorist on the internet might come to think these things in this climate. Obviously, they would be incorrect. Obviously, that would just be a conspiracy theory. It would be very anti-Semitic to even suggest. Shame on whoever would suggest such things. But it is kind of weird. It's a weird coincidence when all the dots seem to connect. And when the man that founds the organization Turning Point turns out to be the turning point in the American conversation, and we're finally fed up with this bullshit. So, that's just a crazy walk down Conspiracy Town with no sources at all. No email evidence whatsoever. No connections to a foreign child sex trafficking blackmail ring that may or may not have visited the White House 17 times in that one presidency, but, you know, who really cares? It's all a hoax. It's all just a Democrat hoax, after all. You should probably just forget about it. Shut up and just drink the slop online. Watch the NFL. Isn't it entertaining? Go to the movies again, you filthy peasants. Because our friends in Hollywood they're losing money. They're losing money. These esteemed producers in Hollywood that work so hard for your entertainment, and they're losing money. All because you won't just drink the slop. I think, really, honestly, we are the criminals here. Like, honestly, we deserve all of this because we're the ones in the wrong, because they're supposed to make money. And when you talk about this kind of horrible stuff online, I mean, A, you hurt their feelings, which is very bad, but B, you lose the money. So, by the way, maybe we should pass more of those laws that prevent Americans from boycotting a foreign nation from deciding how to spend their money because of a foreign nation over there. Maybe we should pass more of those laws. That would be great. So, you are the bad guy. Correct. Whoever said that in the chat, Red Syrup, you're right. Thanks for getting it. Thanks for picking up what I'm putting down. You are the bad guy, Americans, obviously, and shame on you, truly. I hope that is the message that you could take away from this programming tonight, because it's important that you listen carefully to the subtext of what's being said so that you can really think about your country and your patriotism and your people and your government and the pedophile. I mean, like, yourselves. Think about yourselves and how you could do better. Do better, America. That's really the message on today's program. And I think that's where we'll leave it for tonight, is do better, America. Do better. And with that, in a short moment, we're going to play the outro, but don't go away. We'll come right back and we'll do some supers. But before that, I just want to give you this closing message to hopefully encourage you to think about your lives and how you could be less anti-Semitic and a little bit more patriotic for the great nation of Israel, because really being Israel first is being America first, obviously. And so I think it's important that before you go to sleep tonight, you should probably turn on a sermon by America's pastor, the great Robert McCoy. Really a titanic figure, a legendary speaker of the gospel, basically God himself, America's pastor, Rob McCoy. Tonight, I would like you to listen to one of the many truly, truly prophetic sermons, truly just enlightened readings. Basically, the gifts from God that Rob McCoy is. Listen to one of those tonight and think about how you can do better as an American peasant. And hopefully tomorrow you can wake up cleansed of your sins that have brought America to this terrible place that we are in now. Okay? So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side for some super chats.
Conspiracy theories are entering a
Information is the oxygen of the democracy.
There's so much evidence out there that even if less than 1% is true, that would be enough to collapse the current paradigm and change the whole planet.
Alrighty, folks. How we doing? How did we do? How we doing out there, Gigi? You want in on the party? Gigi is over it. Gigi is sick of all of you anti-Semites spewing your vitriol. What's up, Gigi? Are we safe? We safe? Good girl. Good looking out. Good looking out. Cool. I didn't pay much of any attention to the chat during that whole thing because we were on a roll. We were busy, but now we're going to hang out for a minute. We're going to talk shit in the super chats. Let me look at the time. I don't even know what time it is. 10:14 here. We've been going for 2 hours and a little. So I'll take us to, I guess, 11. 45 minutes of supers or so. And I'll get through all the big ones I can. And I'll try to get through as many as I can. Try not to ramble too much. I'm seeing the chat talking about an echo. Oh, there is an echo. I gotcha. Cool. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Echo's fixed. My bad, guys. My bad. My bad. We're better, right? We're better. We're back. I got to wait for the lag on YouTube to catch up. Just make sure. Yeah, we're better. Right? Yeah, we're better. Cool. So, dude, Real Bays at the top of the super chat. The homie. Real Bays, the legend, always in here, dropping heat. If you don't know who Real Bays is, he dropped a track on us a couple weeks ago that was awesome. Ian, I told you in the ABBA track, Deutsche and Chase Bank, there's enough public record there. I learned how to use AI for this kind of research months ago. I just invested in new gear. The freestyle was for fun. The show will be serious. Bays is based. Coming soon. That's going to be sick, dog. If you are going to be able to pull off freestyles about these people, about this shit, dude, I will tune the hell into that. I love watching Ari at home on Twitch when he makes music with people on the streets. So I love flow music. That would be super cool. And Bays, thanks for the huge donation. Huge shout out. If you guys don't know about Real Bays, he's Real Based, and he has, I believe, a YouTube channel and some other channels. And if you look him up, give him a follow because he's a homie. He's super based, and he makes cool music. Appreciate it, man. Mickey Shaw, thanks for the giant donation. Really appreciate it. Ian, we appreciate everything you do. I appreciate everything that you guys do. And I'll be sure to buy Gigi an extra nice dinner for tomorrow. She'll get some steak instead of just chicken tomorrow. Mickey Shaw, oops, I did $49.99. Well, dog, I appreciate the double dono. That's a lot. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll buy her double steak. Ryan Crya Sim Lady. Thanks for the big dono. Go to bed, kiddo. You will be needed. A Course in Miracles studied by Bentons and the dude one never minded. This world is full of miracles. They stand in shining silence next to every dream of pain and suffering, of sin and guilt. Cheers. It sounds like maybe you need to go to bed, but I'm glad you're still here. Thank you. I appreciate the dono. I appreciate you hanging out and the positive vibes. Appreciate it. Mickey Shaw, thanks again for another dono. Dang, dog. Top donator right here. Just one more. Ian, can you imagine inviting Candace to the upcoming collab with Nick and Dave and Clint? Please make that happen. That would be a freaking party. I mean, I can imagine it. Candace is pretty busy, though, and she guards her interview time pretty closely, I think, because she's focused. She's got to stay focused. And we need her focused. But, you know, I would be very open to it. I think it'd be best to be honest, Candace doesn't like Nick, and I get it. They've got beef, and they're both strong personalities. I don't even really want to be in the room with both of them, honestly, now that I think about it. But I hope that they can squash that in the future. We all have our differences, and that's important. We're supposed to have our differences. I would hope that Nick can be a little kinder to her and stop talking so much shit. And I hope that Candace could, chill out a little bit. I think that Candace thinks... My understanding is that Candace thinks that Nick is a Fed, and who knows? You know, Candace is very good at her research and what she does, and she has a lot of inside sources. I don't know that, and I don't see that currently. And personally, I'm of the mind that like I'll still talk to someone if they're a Fed. I don't really care. If it's an interesting conversation, let's have a conversation. And if the Fed has a good argument, cool, whatever, dog. Let's see if we can beat that argument, right? But you know, drama is drama, and I'm a drama-free kind of a person, so I'll stay out of it. But I love them all, you know. Techie Head. Satis, Delaware, searched from our favorite country, March 22nd. Looks like we got an anti-Semite in the chat doing bad. Very bad search of you to do that. I wonder where else they've been searched. I wonder who else has been searched. That's interesting. Thanks for the dono, by the way. Daniel Ortega, 5026. Right off the bat, I need to ask you what the chances are that Erica is one of Candace's informants. I think it's basically zero. I don't know. I don't have inside information on that. But I think she's not, is my guess, if I had to guess. I think that Erica is basically like my current. So I'm still entertaining the theories about her. I'm still listening to all the theories about her. But I'm currently of the mind that I think she's just being kind of controlled, and that she's very unplugged, and that she's basically dissociated from the internet and has no fucking clue what's going on out here. Or she's lying through her fucking teeth and she's one of the most evil people ever, which is like, I got to see some pretty strong evidence before I'm going to like believe that and then like advocate for it on the internet. So I'm kind of choosing to believe in the goodness of people and in the goodness of love, even if there are some suspicious stuffs going on. Oftentimes, it's all important to remember too, that oftentimes people that get planted into positions, that get groomed for positions, oftentimes they don't actually understand the fullness of what they are being put into. So it is possible that she's like planted there in a sense, but not actually like as an like agent operative, but more as like my daughter would be a great person to get over there kind of a thing. But I don't know. Her parents are super sus. Her background is pretty sus, but there's a lot of people in those industries that are sus. So I'm going to keep looking at it and digging into it and being skeptical of her. But for now, I don't know. Got to fix problems and also document the patterns in the past few centuries of history. Need blueprint for society that is not structurally vulnerable to organized crime. Collective studying of history is part of the solution. Fran Arant, thank you for the dono. I completely agree. This is a kind of a controversial take, but I believe that a big part of the solution, I think there's different ways the solution could have been enacted in the past, but now that we're here, I think that a big part of the solution is implementing blockchain technology for public goods. I think it's important that private citizens have access to private technology and private industry, private money, private communications and stuff. And this is the opposite of what the government wants. The government wants all of us on surveilled blockchains and all of their shit on private secret shit. But what we need is we need all of them on fucking public blockchains so we can audit every single dollar they spend. Every communication that they use should be on a public blockchain that's all entirely traceable. Everything that is a public good should be public forever, not deletable, not changeable, immutable. And blockchain technology literally does that. And like, honestly, if we were to, as a collective, everyone were to call for blockchain for these elites, blockchain for the politicians, blockchain for the money, blockchain for all of it, and it's all auditable, it's all trackable, that would solve a fuckload of it right away. So technology can help, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to flip that technology on us and turn it to surveil us, which is bullshit. They work for us. We are private citizens. They are public servants. There are slaves. They should be. Anyways. Sierra Zinger, thank you for the dono. Wrote a song during your live. Thanks for the inspo. Thanks for being inspired, dog. That's sick. Huge fan of musicians. I'll have a musician shout out at you guys before long here too. Super bass musician coming right up. Stoyan MK, thanks for the dono. We need a proper conspiracy vision board. Also, must read Transformation America. It's a lot, and it makes some wild claims. They fit. Sounds like that's a good title. And a conspiracy vision board, dog, I am about to give you web, and you can make that conspiracy vision board for yourself, and you can get wicked with it, dude. I'm very excited for that. Pimbelama, thanks for the Aussie dollars. Coming across the big pond. United we stand, divided we fall. Love conquers all. Amen. You're already more American sounding than fucking half of these people in Congress shilling for this foreign nation. Appreciate it. Shout out to Australia. Kyle Lucerex, thank you. Appreciate it. Free Speech Friday. This super just reminded me to submit my timesheet. Lol. Yeah, dog. Don't get in trouble out there. All y'all peasants, don't get fucked over by the system. And I don't mean to shame people working real jobs. It's fucking important. And there ain't no shame in working real jobs. A lot more honor in working a real job and earning real money, even if it's shitty, than being one of these assholes that's doing what they're doing. Sucking off the system like vampires. Manipulating all the people. Stealing from all of us at once. Krayakim Lady. Krayasim Lady. Hey, the same name again, eh? Thanks for the second dono. Love holds, no grievance, a course in miracles. Miracles, Sizzla, bro. Yeah. Chad, I wonder, do you think this person is young or old? They got to be young, right? Is this young talk or old talk? That's some vibes right there. I appreciate it. Omniharmonic. Hey, Ian. Been following since COVID. Saw your solutions video. Had to reach out. I'm building a civic innovator network. Localism fund and independent midterm campaign. The solutions exist. Let's build together. Find me online. Omniharmonic. Let me take a photo. Yeah, we need solutions. We need people building solutions. We need people talking about solutions. It's easy to talk about problems. Solutions are what we need. And definitely one of the solutions is not voting for any of these assholes that are already in government ever again. If they've already fucked up, don't ever vote for them again. Don't let them suck you into their left-right bullshit. That's all lies. Cheryl Kolar. Please stay safe. Alleged honeypot has noticed you. Hope you... Oh, yeah. I got into it with Alexis today. Alexis came at me and I was like, really, Alexis? You want to go there? Hope you do the book club. I listened to Whitney Webb books on Audible. I got the point. Who is actually running the world? I can't pronounce the names, so it helped a lot. Yeah, it's true. The audiobook is great. What I did first is I listened to the whole audiobook and I just let it go in one ear, and a lot of it came right out the other because a lot of it I didn't understand, but it still got a lot like in there, just kind of vibing around, so that then when I came back and I read them, then I was prepared to understand a lot more. So I highly recommend people getting those audiobooks. And I do think that next year we'll start, cancel this book club and we'll probably start with One Nation Under Blackmail and try to decode all that complex shit. I did see that MTG resigned from Congress. It happened as I was getting ready for the show, so I haven't really vetted it for myself, but I've got a lot of text messages from people that I do trust that are saying that it's for real. I don't know anything about it yet. I want to hope that it's just her making this decision for her own safety. But this is not a good sign. This is not good. Yeah, we need more MTG, not less MTG right now. Cash of Money Kells. Thanks for the 20. Good Lord, I have to come to YouTube and send a super for this. Charlie owns 2 companies in Wilmington, Delaware. Sus or not sus? Hot Girl Bummer, thank you for attention to this matter. Hot Girl Bummer always with the tips, dude. We've got some base people in the chat that know some stuff. I'm going to take a photo of that too. I'll look into that. Yeah, there's a bunch of sketchy companies going on with TPUSA, a bunch of sketchy finances. There's also some sketchy stuff going on with some of the online audits that are happening. I have a source that's real good that's saying that there might be more to these audits than are meeting the eye, and they might not be. There might be little mistakes in there that might be undermining things. So we're gonna get a real audit going by like a professional. And I'm gonna see if we can't get some like real heavy eyes on the TPUSA finances. Because there's something there. Cindy Lou, thank you. Why are we painting airplanes in Delaware? Same state as Macron lawsuit? It's a little fishy. I think we all know what they're actually doing with those planes. When you paint a plane in a private hangar, maybe you have to take it apart, reassemble it, put some things in, take some things out. Awfully convenient. Sounds a lot like a mattress firm, if you know what I'm saying. It's nothing like a mattress firm, but you know what I'm saying. Puking Dog. Thanks for the super, bro. Thanks for the name drop. The Rothschild lineage and way of marriage is following the Herodian family of biblical times. That's a show. And all royal Jewish families. Hey, I'm just reporting on the facts that they have on their own website. Okay? Just to be clear. I'm just reading websites. I'm just reading the Rothschilds' own shit. I hate stuff. 3. Oh, dude, don't hate stuff. Love stuff. Be love stuff. Come on, bro. Little positivity out here. Things are looking up. All the homies red pilling. It's getting better. Well, it's getting worse, but we're all getting better. This is just a reminder that Ian Carroll is neither accident prone nor suicidal. Amen, brother. I am not. I drive carefully and safely. I don't do anything risky. Don't do any risky sports anymore. I don't do drugs. I don't do anything like that would be harmful or dangerous or that I could overdose on or anything like that. I don't even really drink or party at all. And I certainly am not suicidal. I freaking love my life. We are on a roll. And don't ever let no one tell you otherwise, okay? Same with Candace. Anything happens to Candace, we will fucking ride, okay? The whole internet, the whole world will ride. Don't you guys touch her. Don't do nothing. It will be the biggest mistake of your damn lives. Same goes for Tucker. Okay? Same goes for all of them. We're watching you. Don't you even start. We know who it is. We already knew with Charlie. We'll know double if you do it again. Melissa Gladstone, 5968. Into CC, Costa Mesa DCA, Costa Mesa, California. Debbie Magnuson, Project Cuddle, Chuck Smith, Alex Greiner, Pastor Iglesias, Project Steal a Baby, deleted Google page, deleted Google reviews, Wells Fargo, Allstate, Oprah, John Stamos. I don't even know what that means, but that is a spicy comment. Thank you for the donation and for the spice. Epstein was innocent. Shout out to the Rob. Rob can't be serious, right, guys? Shout out to Rob. Thanks for being here. We always need a little bit of goodness in the chat, a little bit of good humor in the chat. Super chat is censoring me. Check normal messages. I don't know how to check normal messages. They're all gone, bro. But yeah, super chats will censor you if you say the wrong things. Yeah, I have seen that before. I was trying to give Baron a super chat and it wasn't letting me type in the name Charlie Kirk. And I had to type in CK. It was bizarre. And then it let me send it. No problem. They got a Louisiana company, Arkel. They've won many government contracts, some up to $500 million, and did work in Gaza recently. Not much information out there about them at all. There are a lot of companies like this around. There's a lot of shady shell corporations, shady LLCs, little private sneak jobs, just hanging around in the shadows, doing double duty. Little front company, little black business on the back end. Tale as old as time. Mad World 1984, you are the GOAT. Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate the 10. Honestly, dogs, remember at the start of the show when I said that, like, I don't know what's going on in here, and I barely even got ready in time, and I've got all this shit that I, like, literally, I felt so unprepared today, but I feel like we put together a pretty damn good show, actually. Maybe it's a little boring in the middle, like maybe we got a little heavy into, like, history class or into, like, this article, but I thought it was a pretty good show, honestly. For all things considered, having just gotten back from traveling, having spent my whole day trying to get this website to work, this app that I've been playing with, I thought it was a pretty damn good show. So thank you. I appreciate that. Coro Control. Thanks for the dono. Been watching your streams for a while. Thank you for speaking truth to power. You are very important for the kind of society we live in. Thank you for all you do. Have a good night. God bless. Thank you. I appreciate that. We're all important for a society that we live in. Every one of us plays a part. I might be a messenger. I might seem like I have a prominent role, and I certainly take I take that responsibility very seriously. But like, we're all America. Like, every American is America. Every Australian is Australia. Every British person is Britain. You know, all of us are our collective cultures, and it's up to all of us to be our best. And we all play that equal role in God, right? Like, we're all a piece of it. So don't downplay yourselves, right? You never know what you might be called to contribute in the future. You never know what is going to be placed in front of you. Ooh, I just got a mosquito. You never know what you're going to be called to do. So always be ready. Take good care of yourself so you're ready when the time comes. M. Garcia, 0910, Maxwell email server is still active and ran by ex-Pirate Bay admin. What? How do you know that? And why the hell have they not released it yet? I would like to read it. Thank you very much. In fact, I'd like to read all of their emails. Old Sarah Kellen emails, old Leslie Groff emails, old Ghislaine Maxwell emails. There's also an awful lot more Epstein emails and Ehud Barak emails out there. Hell, why don't we just subpoena Bibi's emails at this point? We're already funding his whole freaking life. We're already the reason why he's not in prison 5 years ago. Just subpoena that boy's emails. He's basically works for us at this point. We're the ones that pay his salary. We're the ones that pay for all their health care. We're the ones that pay for all their bombs. Subpoena his emails. Call him to the stand. Fuck that guy. Respectfully, obviously. CD Kinsey, thank you. I believe that the Epstein files are connected to the 2016 Russian interference. You should investigate, please. I love your work. There's actually a lot of evidence in these files of Epstein colluding in those networks and talking to a lot of people. And I haven't done the dig to put it all together yet, but I've seen pieces of it and I've seen people reporting on it. And there's a lot of stuff in these emails still that just takes someone like Ryan Grimm, right? Putting the pieces together and like threading that narrative with the context, with other investigation and other research and other sources to help understand how these emails all link up. Because as you saw, they're all so disconnected and so hard to piece together that it's going to take us some time, but we're going to do it. And there's a lot of stuff that's going to come out. January 6th, 9/11. I don't think 9/11 is in the email files. We don't have emails from that far back. But 9/11 is going to be the big one that's going to come down. And we all kind of already know what happened. But I'm just waiting for a break in this story. I'm kind of just waiting for Candace to figure out who actually shot Charlie. So then we can figure out who brought down the towers. Because who knows? Nobody knows who brought down Building 7 and both of the other ones. And, all the rest of it all. But we got some ideas. It's probably Egypt, honestly. It's probably Egypt. Delaney Lore, 7880. Can you look into Janet Osebard? She made the doc The Fall of Cabal about the Rothschild and other things, and then made a series about COVID. She was missing and then confirmed dead by suicide. So I am familiar with these documentaries, with these films. I did not know that she had died by suicide. I'd be curious to look into that. Fall of the Cabal, if I remember correctly, it was one of those ones that digs back into like the Ashkenazi stuff and like the old, like the history of the Rothschilds in ways that I just don't know how to source very well. You kind of have to like give yourself a full-on ancient, like a history degree and like literally read the primary sources to piece it all together in a way that you can genuinely trust. And like, I'm no Daryl Cooper. And so someday I aspire to be that informed to like literally know for sure. But like, for now, I'm going to read casual and I try not to put too much stock in those things, even if they make sense. I can't just go reporting on like all of it, But shout out to people that do know this stuff. Kjo 1776. Thanks for helping me build a full-on tinfoil hat. Yeah, we sure did that tonight. That is for dang sure. For dang sure. Brian Woods, is Buyer app on hold? What's the current update? It's kind of on hold because we keep on distracting John with all these other projects that we're getting really into. But also we're finalizing the last little tweaks to getting it ready for the Apple App Store, and getting it approved by the Apple App Store is a little more involved than we at first realized. It takes like a couple days to get it approved, and then if there's any tweaks, but it's basically there. And so we're getting prepped to do sort of like launching announcements, live streams, videos, and to get it onto the Apple App Store. So we just were meeting about it earlier today to make sure that the final version of the algorithm that is like connecting companies to ownership and telling us all what everything is, make sure that it's all dialed, and it was dialed. So we've got the green light. I'm going to do some final testing with it the next 2 or 3 days. We'll send it out to the beta testers one last time while it's being approved for Apple, and then we'll launch in the next week or so. But we're committed to giving a really solid product rather than trying to rush it out. We don't have any investors. We don't have anyone waiting on us except for all you lovely people, and we know that you are patient people. And if you're not, too bad. You're going to have to be. But it is basically here. And don't worry, you will not miss it when it comes out. It is going to be gangster, and it's going to be everywhere. We're going to shout it from the rooftops. And I have a feeling that it's going to make a pretty big splash. Buyerapp.com, if you didn't know. BUYRAPP.com. And if you're not familiar, BUYRAPP.com. And let me just quickly pull it up for you so y'all can see. This is what you're looking for, buyerapp.com. You can still sign up to be in the beta if you want, which will also sign you up for being the first to be told when it goes live. You can follow it on socials. It's freaking sick. and it'll tell you who owns everything. You just can scan any product in the grocery store, not just food. You can scan your tampons, scan your soap, scan your deodorant, scan your food, and it'll tell you who owns it, who owns them, more importantly, help you find family and founder-owned companies and help you identify all of the corporate slop that's masquerading as family and founder-owned companies so you can, make your own decisions about who to give your money to. Do you want to pay BlackRock and all these, various financial institutions and investor types? Or would you rather support moms and pops and regular old Americans and other people, that are trying to do good by the world? It's up to you. But we just give you information. We let you decide. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to shout out Buyer App. I'm super stoked for it. It is basically here. It's going to be great. All right. Is that a new one? What? Oh, it's right there. I just clicked on it. Cool. And don't worry, guys. If you're coming in up top, we'll do one last screen up the top when we finish up here. Ian, shout out to the Ians, homie. Thank you for doing what you do. This shiz is so important. Also, George Webb, 100. I was actually just talking to George Webb the other day. He gave me a call about something totally unrelated. Thank you. I appreciate that. It is important. And I think it's great that you guys pay attention. It's important that more of us pay attention and talk about this shit. Caitlin Banks, thank you. Have you looked into the SRA in Utah? MormonMonarch.com. We are the people Utah on YouTube. It connects with CIA and MK Ultra. SRA, if you're not familiar, satanic ritual abuse. MormonMonarch.com. Let me take a little note here. Interesting. I haven't looked into it, but this shit is out there. Appreciate it. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Lock that. Cool. Don't change that. Don't change that. Don't change that. Don't change that. Cool. Appreciate it. Okay, last try. What was up with Rothschild's house burning down a few months back? What do you think they were covering up? Okay, so that one was interesting. We don't have a lot of details about it because there's not a lot of reporting about it, but it was like a lesser family member of the Rothschilds family, as far as I'm aware. I haven't dug super deeply into it, other than to know that one of the Rothschild family members, direct descendant, but not apparently super important is the way they spin the story. House burns down and then he's found dead inside, alone. And I feel like that is not a coincidence. I don't know what they're covering up. I don't know what that means. I mean, you could make up a lot of ideas from someone trying to rob him because he's a Rothschild and maybe he has a bunch of gold or some shit. And so maybe some common criminal tried to rob him and cover it all up. Seems more likely that there's a little more to it, but I don't know what it would be. Maybe a Rothschild grew a soul, a conscience, and was going to turncoat. Can't have that. I don't know. Your theory is as good as mine. When there's limited public reporting on something, you need a hardcore investigative journalist to go muckrake on the beat to dig those kinds of things up. So it's tough to get stories that aren't reported on, and especially when it's not where you're from or not where you're located at. So unfortunately, I don't got a lot for you. But interesting story, and I do keep my eye out for anything else along it, although I kind of doubt we'll get more. Gravity and Grace, thanks for the Aussie dollars. Keyword search Macron in the Epstein docs. Jeffrey Epstein wrote, along with some other tidbits, I was shown a photo of Macron's boyfriend. Interesting. Oh, that's not what I want. Where'd it go? Did I minimize it? Yeah, I minimized it. Let me pull it over here. Search for... Let me see if it pulls anything up on the first try. I'm still kind of learning how to talk to Web in ways that will engage with its current memory and all that, its current code. Mentioned 40 plus times. Discussed extensively in the context of French presidential elections. Yeah, but that's in reports. That's not in emails. European politics, China relations, related entities and relationships. Marie Le Pen. This is, Steve Bannon. There are references to Steve Bannon's presence in Paris and his desire to influence European elections, seemingly in opposition to Macron. Interesting. That is a very confusing type of email. I'll look into it more. That's a good idea. I'm not sure why I haven't looked into it more already. We'll have to fine-tune web, too, to get better at kind of picking out what we want. Holy shit, dude. Let me just show you guys what these emails that it's pulling up look like. I have no idea what this would be a part of. Look at this email that it pulled up. Right there. President Emmanuel Macron of France. Above, commands respect on the world stage. But at home, he has fallen very far, very fast, with an approval rating of only 19%. So is this like code, the like metadata on the back end of a website or something? Or a instant messenger? Or a web, like, what is this? Any nerds in the chat know what this is? But yeah, there's a bunch of mentions. None of them have been juicy so far that I've clicked on. Macron is seen as a young, dynamic leader. Again, what is this, dog? What is this? Number 105. Okay, so this is in the instant messenger chats. I recognize these. These are like logs from like an instant messaging service that he was using. Macron government. No, yup. No, oh wait, those are not the messages. The ministers of the elite. Sender, JEE, iTunes at gmail.com. I would need to dig into this a lot more. Now at the pyramid with the entire government, what are your plans? Whoa, spicy. Macron government? Now at the pyramid with the entire government. What are your plans, Illuminati master? Web is a lot of fun. There's still a lot of fine-tuning to get it good, but man, the cool shit you can dig up in here is wild. But we're getting distracted. We are getting distracted. I think that was this one. Oh no, that's the Rothschilds' house. I don't know how I got to, because more have come in since then. We did that one. Casey Crypto, thank you. 65% of U.S. corporations and LLCs are registered in Delaware, and the only chancery court in the country is there. The money that moves through Wilmington is insane. Plus, look at DuPont, Rothschild Connect, and Inbreds. That's a good point. The DuPont Rothschild connection. That is a good point. And yeah, there is and also like there's a bunch of corporations based out of Delaware. I saw a cool tip on X that about the sketchy blonde girl at Turning Point USA. One of her shell companies has like an address in Delaware, but I think it's just their registered agent for her bullshit corporation. That's how she's money laundering or whatever she's doing, fundraising, allegedly. And it's like literally a 1-block walk to the sketchy government building that Candace is identified on. I think it's King Street. But I think it's just a registered agent. I don't know if there's a significance to that, but I think we all need to be looking a little more carefully at Delaware. HLSPW, thank you. I think Candace might reveal the U.S.'s CIA, FBI intel through this investigation without realizing it. CIA is not CI FBI. I think that's what Cash is protecting right now. Confidential informant FBI, I think is what you're referring to there. CI FBI. Or Central Intelligence FBI. But yeah, there's definitely some shadowy underbellies to these organizations, and I think Candace is exposing some of this shit that she's not supposed to talk about. And I think it's causing a real panic up in the high houses because they don't know what to do about it. Yeah. Thanks for the Canadian bucks. Lil This. You are my favorite. You have opened my eyes to so much. I have mad respect for you and everything you do. Sorry in advance for the lowly Canadian dollars, but I can only work with what I've got. Hey, no shade on Canada, dog. I love Canadians. I don't love your government, but I love Canadians. And thank you. I appreciate the hype. Much appreciated. Cash Patel saved Charlie Kirk's life. See you in Valhalla, Charlie. Don't believe. Go dig him up. 33 hours and you'll Charlie Kirk at Mossad. You know, I'm still open to the Charlie Kirk is still alive theories, but I have looked at the squib stuff. It would be a pretty tough operation to pull off in front of everybody like that. But, you know, they do have all kinds of Hollywood tech that we don't know about, so I'm just keeping my mind open. I'm certainly operating off the perspective that he's dead and that we need to solve the crime. But if in the process of solving it, we prove that that is actually the case, then we're on some Q shit, homie. Then it's fucking like 500D chess, trust the plan. And that shit would be crazy, dog. That'd be crazy. If you don't follow a couple of cool Q accounts, like, come on. Like, are you even living? Are you even living? Like, for real. I seriously love those guys. I'm not making fun of them, honestly. I freaking love it. And I don't know what's real, dude. I don't freaking know what's real. Like, Monarch. We don't even know the half of what's going on out there, right? So just, you know, keep an open mind. You might not know everything. Remember that. But still look for the truth, obviously. This roast is insane. Like the roast you're eating or me roasting their asses? Because I feel like we got pretty heated in there. I'm not like, sounds like Twitch came back up, but I'm not surprised that Twitch went down, to be honest. Mr. LeBlanco, 1980. Thank you. These the same British spy planes that flew over Israel? Have you looked into India's connections to everything from 9/11, pandemic, and recent event? No, not really. India, I don't look at too often, honestly. Though they do have a lot of people. They've got a lot of very necessary H-1B employees that we really need to import, obviously. But I'm not trying to throw shade on my Indian homies. I got some tight Indian homies. You know, all peoples are diverse. And I judge everyone as individuals. And I don't know much about India's current role in geopolitics, to be honest. I'm focused on a lot of other nations right now, like Gulf nations, like Israel and Levant nations, Ukraine, Venezuela, Mexico. There's only so much one man can learn. But I'll look into it someday. Nobis, P.S. still employs my mom. One who still lives with my dad. The one that told her CP was legal when I found it at 12. One that destroyed evidence of his dad. Dude, I'm sorry, bro. That freaking sucks. Whether you're a bro or a bra, that's a rough one, dog. I hope you're doing better. That's not good. You've had some tough times in your life. Overcome. Solve your shit. Take responsibility for your life and overcome whatever all that did. Sorry for that. That sucks. It's an evil world out there, folks. But you're not alone. There's a lot of other people that have been through a lot of evil shit. You're not alone. True Fevades. Ehud Barak, Ehud Schneerson, and Idan Nurek made Paragon Solutions. Then Schneerson and Nurek were hired by Dave Bloomberg, TPUSA Advisory Council. Oh, I don't know about the TPUSA connection to that. Ehud Schneerson and Paragon Solutions, all of that is so wild, and I definitely reported on that when that happened, the Italy stuff. They literally got caught running a freaking blackmail ring in Italy that was international. They were just selling, like, Paragon is like the next Pegasus. These Israeli tech firms that are spying on everybody. Cool link, bro. I'll look into that. Mutual Aid, DTLA, 2515 West 7th Street, 90057, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day. $20 to $40 to fill your kitchen. Volunteer for free food. MacArthur Park. Hell yeah. Help out the homies. Help out your community if I'm reading you right. That's awesome. Shout out to people that are doing community projects, helping people out. We're running up on our time here, guys. So I'm going to read the 5 on screen, and then I'm going to do a few scrolls and get some of the ones at the bottom. You know how we do it. And then we'll wrap this thing up. I'm getting pretty tired. But I really appreciate all the hype and support. I appreciate all the 11,000 of you that are still hanging out in here. That's like 11 times as many as the entire Daily Wire pulls on a live stream these days, I hear. So shout out to all the homies hanging out. My coworkers are the worst sheeple. Deep state triggers a whole denial reaction. I just take a deep breath and think, what would Ian do? I would ask them questions about what they think the world is like and genuinely listen and genuinely try to get their perspective. And ask them, like, what do you think of this? And what do you think of this? And try to find a place where they have a conspiracy theory or, like, where they don't trust the government and ask them about that and be like, all right, let's talk about that. Find that one red pill that they have swallowed. I'm sure they've swallowed one, right? Or get a new job. You know, it's really beneficial to work around good people if you can. Not everyone has that luxury. Jobs are very hard to come by these days. I get that for sure. And some of us, you got to just make do with what you got. But man, it sucks to have to work with a bunch of sheeple. Sorry for that. But also, you got to meet people where they are. You know, you got to meet people where they're at. You don't teach someone by shouting at their face. You teach people by listening to them and getting into their shoes and their perspective and putting them in situations where they can teach themselves. Charlie was onto something, and he paid his life for it. Sure looks like it. I don't know what it was. I don't know what's going on with it, but it sure looks like it. Battle Cat. Oh, I think I'm scrolling again. Classic me. Getting ahead of myself here. I think we're doing these three. Battle Cat. How do I share important info in small towns like Duluth, Minnesota without seeming political? How do I talk to family respectfully without taking sides? It's tough, dude. It's tough. I think it's genuinely just asking questions. Asking more questions and not getting so sherry about your opinions. And being humble, you know. When people feel heard, they're way more likely to hear you. And that's not like listen to one sentence and then tell them what you think. I mean, genuinely listen to them and try to understand how they see the world until you can see why they see it that way for yourself. That's how you debate as well, even though I'm not suggesting that you debate them. I'm suggesting that you genuinely listen to them and try to get in their shoes and walk a mile or so. And then that might inspire them. You know, if you're the bigger person, you tend to inspire other people to be similar, at least be a little better, you know, hopefully. Melissa Gladstone. People need to talk to Siobhan Martin, California CPS Secretary, just retired, about Judge Anthony Ufland and any other JV judges she knows are PDF protectors. Yeah, dude, the CPS system, the foster care system, there is so much darkness and all that. It's tragic. And we definitely people should be shining lights on that for sure. That was one of the earliest sort of like whistleblowers that ever approached me way back in the TikTok days. Was like, yo, you got to look at the foster care system. Coincidentally, Venezuela has lots of oil, but it's also about drugs and freedom. Am I right? Love from Rachel and Barry. Thank you, Rachel and Barry. They also really need a freedom bank, you know, a bank owned by our buddies. They could really use one of those. That would help them out. And we'll do one more right here. Can you shout out my channel? Dude, it would have been such a bummer if I didn't shout out your channel. I'm not sure if I scrolled a little bit and like you were in the original ones I promised, and then I like scrolled a little bit and I was about to skip you. That would have been so tragic. So I'm glad I did one little more one right here. So shout out to AHSan703. I hope that that's your channel. If you didn't put your channel in, then I don't know what to say. But I appreciate you. Thanks for being an avid watcher. Shout out to AHSan703. Thanks for being a supporter. Keep on doing what you're doing, even if it feels like it's trudge, even if it feels like you're not making any progress. I was very blessed to blow up quickly. That's not how it happens for most of us. So don't get discouraged. Just keep on doing what you love. Keep on learning, studying the craft and the game. You'll get better and you'll see success for sure. We need all sorts of people creating stuff, investigating stuff, doing stuff. So, like the video. Yeah, don't forget to like the video, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. W for Ian, W for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ronaldo. Shout out to Ronaldo in the chat. Impeach California JV judge. Yeah, right there. Ufland PDF protector. He's getting heat in the comments. Shout out to Melissa Gladstone. Thank you, Ian, from another Aussie. Keep doing you. We got a lot of Aussies in the chat today. Who's this guy too? Philippines checking in. Shout out to the Philippines. We got people all around the world checking in. Hell yeah. Oh, that's the bottom. Cool. One more up here. Love you. AI chops, Ian. Yeah. Shout out to you. The dancing juices. Yeah, we'll talk about those dancing Israelis someday here soon. For sure. For sure. Booted me right before you were going to read my comment. Well, I'm reading it now, Melissa Gladstone. Shout out to you. Shout out. All right, let's go back up to the top and read all these big supers that are coming in. We'll scroll back up one more time. If you've got a big super, I'm not scrolling back down, guys. It's already 11 o'clock. So don't super in. Don't donate any more money tonight, please. Keep it for yourselves. Keep it for your families. As I'm going up, I'm going to go up from the bottom towards the top. Google the deal Macron just made with Ukraine. Sold 100 Dassault planes. Oh, and defense weapons. Raytheon involved too. I will look that up. Speaking of Dassault and our little airport hangar and our French, Israeli, and French military and intelligence connections. Great tip. Appreciate that. Shout out to Gravity and Grace. Love when you guys are dropping heat, like dropping literal leads in the supers. Frana Rant, thank you. Do you think there is weird suppressed psychic / science stuff, or is that a red herring? I think very much so. Watch the telepathy tapes. Listen to the telepathy tapes. Scroll back on my channel to my video about the telepathy tapes, dude. I 100% believe that there's some crazy psychic and science stuff going on. And honestly, I think that that's just different words for God stuff. I think that science is slowly catching up to religion and realizing that there's a lot more going on than humans have realized. And I think a lot of things have been suppressed. And I think there's all sorts of spiritual out there that is talked about in all these religious books that we've just been lied to about it. And we've been poisoned. We've been disconnected from God, disconnected from ourselves and our health. And you got to have a healthy energy system in your own body in order to access the energy systems of the world. That's what I suspect. And the telepathy tapes is a crazy listen. Obviously, I know it'll take time to, evidence it out and to test it all and to verify it with the scientific method. But damn, it's an interesting one to go down that rabbit hole. And that video that I made about it, we go down the telepathy tapes rabbit hole, and then we go down the CIA mind control rabbit hole, and we compare the two. And it's like one of my original best videos. I love that video, and I love that line of research. Never gets old. And it's a huge white pill when you get to the end of that, by the way. All right. Cryasim lady that I can't pronounce. Thanks for another big super. What is on second? Your Favo Grateful Dead song. Ripple, Althea, U.S. Blues, Bertha Ramblin' Rose, Scarlet's Behind USS, Begina's, Begonias, Nothing's Real, Can Be Threatened, A Course in Miracles' Beyonce, Jay-Z, Say Sue. I don't know what you mean, but shout out to it. Those are some vibes, homie. Grateful Dead, love their music. Also love their probable CIA propaganda situation, but that's all good, whatever. Jamie Abbott, 5399. Have you heard anything about Candace's lawyer in Delaware for the Brigitte Macron lawsuit being the same address as the address that the foreign dignitary went after? He landed on 910. Any truth to that? As far as I'm aware, there is truth to that. She got kind of siloed into that lawyer. And I think she talked about it on her show today a little bit, that she had to get a new lawyer for Delaware. And a bunch of lawyers turned her down, apparently, is what she said today, I think. And it was like, oh, weird. And then we get saddled with this one lawyer that feels like he's from this one specific place. That's weird. I'm pretty sure she said that, right? I'm sure she'll tell us more. I'm sure she'll tell us. Yo, thanks for the big supers, guys. FYI, we haven't been USA since 1963. Amen. I would argue we haven't been USA since 1913. But I'm with you. I feel what you're putting down. Ian, keep going max with the truth. Yeah, we definitely went max tonight. I will not stop. Don't worry. I might get more sarcastic and I might get a little more subtexty if the control on the speech cranks up. But, we are going max. Mr. Bruce Lee, thanks for the big super to end it off. Shout out for the huge $100 dono. Inspire others by continuing to find inspiration. You're dang straight. When you get right with God and you get on that roll and you get inspired and you are just flowing and you're on the path, everyone else can't help but see it, and you'll inspire everyone around you, and you become this bubble of positivity and vibes, and it'll just follow you everywhere you go. I totally agree. That's 100% the way. Legendary way to end the show. So with that, that is the end of our supers for the day. That is the end of our show. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you want to hang out more, we will be on Twitch live streaming more mellow, like research streams and vibes and like breaking stories and all sorts of stuff all week long over on the Twitch. That is Cancel Ian Carroll. If you've never been on Twitch, you're right. Twitch is full of garbage, but we do all of this stuff here all week long. And I'm growing that up as a backup just in case anything happens to this, and as a chill space where I won't flood the YouTube with just like endless live stream content. So if you want a whole bunch more of this, you want to like just get Go max with us. Come hang out on Twitch. We'll be there all week, and then I'll see you here again. I might try to do a midweek show, but it is Thanksgiving this week, so it might be kind of a busy week for that. And then I'll see you on next Friday is the goal, even though it'll be a tight turnaround there after Thanksgiving. So that's it. We all tired. Be sure to drink your water. Be sure to eat some healthy food. Tell someone you love them. Do something nice for someone. Remember to do the things that matter. Do the important stuff. Take good care of yourself. Take good care of your family. Take good care of your people, your community. That will expand outwards as you do it, right? So thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for staying positive, keeping the vibes, going max with us. And I'll see you in the next one.
Conspiracy theories are entering a dangerous
Information is the oxygen of a democracy.
There's so much evidence out there that even if less than 1% is true, that would be enough to collapse the current paradigm and change the whole planet.